I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. All right. Happy Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Sab's podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. If you are new, I do want to let you know that Sab's podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there once a month for the monthly roundtable, and you can catch me here on Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. Shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rockfin, Twitter, and Rumble. And welcome back, guys. It has been an interesting weekend. We are going to kick things off with our special guest, but first and foremost, let me go ahead and show you the rundown of stories tonight by sharing that beautiful thumbnail. Let's bring it in. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are discussing, I saw it. We're going to dive into it. The talk between Candace Owens and Erika happened. What was discussed during that conversation? You're going to hear about that here. We're going to dive into all of that. And also what is going on with Tim Pool. He has lost it, huh? Lost it. We're also tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to discuss Donald Trump shamed. Oh my God. A interesting article from Vanity Fair that has been released is revealing some damning things about Donald Trump and his administration. To go along with this, the cringe statement that he gave about the death of Rob Reiner, we're going to get into that. We're also going to discuss, there's Kash Patel again there in the thumbnail. The FBI claims that 4 individuals were plotting a terrorist attack for New Year's Eve. Is it true? What do you think? We're going to get into it. I told you guys again, it's very weird to me that all these things are happening back to back to back. We're also going to discuss, believe it or not, it appears that Kamala Harris is going to run for president again in 2028. Yes. And she's already given a speech, which kind of shows that she's switching up her message. Is it too late for her? And of course, last but not least, there is a challenger running against Senator Ed Markey. That is our senator here in Massachusetts, and he is going to join us. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Tonight's theme is signed, sealed, and delivered. And you will see all of this with these stories. Let's go ahead and bring in our special guest. His name is Joe Tasche. He is running for Senate against Ed Markey. Ed Markey, big name, has been there for quite some time. And he is running with the Party of Socialism and Liberation, known as PSL. Let's go ahead and bring in Joe. What's going on, Joe?
Hey, Sabrina. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on. It's always great to have on someone here in Massachusetts. I have to ask first and foremost, a lot of people who live outside of Massachusetts that know of Ed Markey, they look at him and they see him as this progressive beacon of hope. They look at him as someone who supported the Green New Deal, etc. Could you explain to people why you decided to run against Ed Markey and while you're doing so outside of the two-party system?
Definitely. Well, I think there's 2 elements I want to speak to with this question, because honestly, part of the answer is that the decision for us to run this campaign in Massachusetts didn't have something to do particularly with Ed Markey, but the state of affairs in U.S. politics today. And even your news headline rundown expressed the fact that we're experiencing so many crises in our society today, economic and political. I mean, the vast majority of people in the United States and in Massachusetts are struggling with the cost of living, and it's going in the wrong direction. People are living paycheck to paycheck. Healthcare is a leading cause of bankruptcy for people in this country, and we're facing increasing healthcare premiums for 24 million Americans starting in January because Congress is allowing the Affordable Care Act subsidies to expire. There's no solution for climate change, no solution being put forward to implement AI safely in a way that doesn't continue to destroy our climate and provide jobs for people in this country. So part of the fact of why we're running the campaign is to express that we need an entirely new way of doing things in this country. I put all of those problems that I listed out at the feet of the capitalist system, right? The system that allows 900 billionaires in this country to own and control as much wealth as the poorest 170 million of us. And until we address that fact and actually have working people with political power and reorganize our system to prioritize people's needs over billionaire profits, we're going to keep going in this downward spiral. And then there's a second element of it, which is the fact that we need political leadership that can state the reality of those problems and put forward solutions that are suitable to the moment. And I don't believe that either the Democratic or Republican parties are capable of doing that because they're paid for and controlled by the same billionaire interests that are causing those very same problems. And I think one of the things we want to say in this campaign is, in a lot of ways, Ed Markey is the best that the Democratic Party has to offer, and I think is on the progressive wing of the party. But it's on us as people who care about inequality, who care about people having their basic needs met, who care about fighting against war, to break from the capitalist system and the billionaire run system that is creating all those issues. And unfortunately, the Democratic and Republican parties are vessels for billionaire politics. And so that's why I think it's very important to run independently. And I'm running as the candidate with the PSL, as you mentioned. And I think that's something that resonates with most people as well, because polls all across the country show that around 2/3 of people believe that there needs to be a third party, but a much smaller percentage of people say they would actually vote for one because it doesn't feel politically viable. But it's only going to be politically viable if we actually build it. And we can't wait until the future for that to happen. We have to start today to build the future that we want to see and break from this system of exploitation and death and destruction.
Well, I agree with you 100%. And hey, I vote third party. So yeah, I'm trying to get more people on that train. You have an awesome ad that I do want to share with people. Again, if you're just joining, this is Joe Tashe. He is running for Senate. He's running against Senator Ed Markey.
Do you feel like no matter who's in office, we keep struggling? From the cost of living crisis to endless wars, climate disasters, there's one root cause of these issues: capitalism. Billionaire bosses live off the backs of working people like us by design, not by accident. We need a new system, one where workers are in charge, so we can plan the economy to meet the needs of the people and planet. That's socialism. I'm Joe Tashe from the Party for Socialism and Liberation, running for U.S. Senate here in Massachusetts because time is up for these billionaires. I'm a youth worker, the son of an immigrant father and working mother, and I'm a community organizer. For over 7 years, I've been organizing in Roxbury and other parts of Massachusetts with the PSL. We're parents, students, teachers, healthcare workers, and more. A working class party made up of everyday people who know that this country has to change. Donald Trump is attacking our rights from every direction. But these problems started long before Trump. In Massachusetts, we've been a blue state for almost a century. What do we have to show for it? Healthcare deserts, police brutality, crumbling infrastructure, and one of the highest costs of living in the country. The problems we face aren't impossible to fix. In fact, the solutions are common sense. 30% of food produced in this country goes to waste. There's no housing shortage. There's more empty homes in this country than there are homeless people. So why won't our government fix things? Because the billionaires are in charge and they only care about their profits. They cut programs like Medicaid and SNAP, using our tax dollars to fund genocide, war, and deportations instead. Then they try to blame our problems on us, on DEI, on immigrants, on trans people, on poor people. They want to see us fighting each other or hiding in fear. Because the billionaires' biggest fear is all of us united against them. We have the resources. We just need the power. Together, we can take control of our future, fund our housing, healthcare, and communities. I'm running for Senate to fight for that future, but I can't do it alone. This movement needs all of us who are sick of living under the thumb of the billionaires. We don't need more politicians who will make deals with the far right. We need a new system. Capitalism is a national emergency. The solution is socialism.
The solution! The solution! The solution!
Joe, I really like that ad, and I love the music. I like the jazzy kind of music. I have to say, one of the things that I really appreciate is the fact that you are also an organizer. You are organizing in Roxbury. I also read your About section on your website. You, like me, went to Northeastern University, and so I'm sure you know that Northeastern, they took land from Roxbury, and they're continuing to take land and expanding. And I just think it's good to have someone, no shade to Ed Markey, right? Like Ed Markey, he came from working class background. He's fought in some ways, but at the same time, I feel like he's not involved in the day-to-day organizing and the energy that we kind of need from people here. And you are. Uh-oh. Oh, we lost Joe. Oh, it might have been an internet. I think let's bring him out and then bring him back in. Yeah, so if you're just joining, guys, Joe Tashe, he's running against Senator Ed Markey. Ed Markey, he's been there for quite a while. He had a challenge years ago, which was Joe Kennedy III, who ran against him. And I think some people thought that, well, since Joe Kennedy is younger, he's going to lead a more progressive type of, energy. Unfortunately, I think what people found is that when they were debating each other, Joe Kennedy really didn't run on much of substance. He just ran on the fact that he wasn't Ed Markey. It's just like, he was like, he's not Ed Markey. And that's why you should vote for him. And also the fact that he was a Kennedy. Like, to be honest, I think he used that Kennedy name. So yeah. So while we wait for Joe to come back in, I'll go ahead and show his website here. So here's his website. It says Time's Up for the Billionaires, running for U.S. Senate in Massachusetts. So yeah, we went into part of the About section, but again, okay, Joe's back. Let's bring you back in. Hey, there you go.
Sorry about that. My computer is a little old, so sometimes it overheats, and that's what just happened.
But, no worries. But I was going to mention that the fact that you are an organizer and you're actually organizing in Roxbury, I think that's a big plus.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you saying that. And, a lot of times people, when I'm meeting people around the campaign, they are like, oh, I've never met a politician before. And I kind of recoil at that framing because I do consider myself an organizer and I'm part of a socialist party that is made up of organizers. And you mentioned Northeastern University. That's where I first cut my teeth as a student organizer. And like you said, Northeastern is in Roxbury, a historically Black working class neighborhood, and has played a big role in buying up land, displacing residents. It's something that I was very active in when I was in school, and I'm still an organizer for fighting for tenants and for the rights of working people to stay in our neighborhoods in general. And I remember learning about how the neighborhoods right around Northeastern were, 80% Black in the 1980s, for example, and now it's a much lower percentage because so many people have been displaced. And I was part of a group at Northeastern called the Housing Justice Coalition, and we organized with groups in Roxbury in particular to try to fight against the gentrification of the neighborhood. And one of the things that we did was organize a student body referendum. So we got on the online vote where we elected the student government, we got a referendum question that asked, should Northeastern create an elected neighborhood council made up of Roxbury residents who have veto power over Northeastern developments in the neighborhood? And we actually got the majority of Northeastern students to vote yes in favor of that. It was over 60%. And then we took it to the university and they're like, yeah, thanks, but no thanks, which is one part of my education around the need to build not just popular consciousness and support, but also build, our organizational power. But I think it's very important for people to be connected to our neighborhoods, to our workplaces. And I am not someone who believes that we're going to change society just by electing one person to office. I think if you look at the history of impactful social movements and social change in this country, from the abolition of slavery to the labor movement and the New Deal to the civil rights movement in the 60s, it's all been a collective movement and organization, right? And so I see this electoral campaign as an expression of a bigger movement and an invitation for people to get involved in that movement as well. And so I'm very proud of, my history and current reality as an organizer, for sure.
Joe, how do you feel about the way that some of the politicians, especially in the Senate, have voted in regards to foreign policy? All this money that they've been voting for to send to Israel, for example.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an anti-war individual. I'm anti-imperialist, and I believe that our foreign policy right now is an extension of the fact that billionaire interests control politics and the economy in the United States. I mean, we spend almost $1 trillion, or roughly $1 trillion, sometimes more, on militarism and war every single year in this country. If you added up the next 9 countries who spend the most on their militaries, it would still be less than the US military budget. And if you cut the US military budget by 90%, we would still spend the 3rd most of any country in the world. And so that's part of our program, is to end the billionaire war drive, to cut the military budget, to close US military bases around the world. And if we did, we would open up about $900 billion every single year to fund education and healthcare and people having access to groceries and housing and investing in life instead of investing in occupation, violence, and death all across the world. And I think the genocide in Palestine and Gaza that has been funded and supported by the US for the last several years has been an eye-opening moment for people about the role that our tax dollars play in causing that violence and destruction all over the world. But it isn't only in Gaza, right? It's an expression of the fact that our military is a tool for the billionaires and the corporations to exert their domination over the world, and that shouldn't be the case.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think we need more candidates like you, those that are willing to stand up to the military industrial complex, those that are not, going to cower to dim, party establishment, which we've seen many of them do over the years. What about healthcare? This is a big one right now. Right now, we see the Democratic Party and the Republican Party still haven't figured out what they're going to do with Obamacare and this extending the access of Obamacare. They still haven't figured this out. The way that I describe this is that they're just playing with people's lives, whether it was the SNAP benefits, whether it's healthcare. They're just playing with people's lives, and they really don't care because they're career politicians at this point, and they continue to have their perks. They don't have the type of healthcare that a lot of us have. And I think that's important for people to understand. So if there was another force the vote moment for universal healthcare, Medicare for all, we would want to know, would you be in that fight? Even though, like, if you won and you were in the Senate, would you be in that fight and not, shy away from that because of party leadership?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this is one of the biggest issues in the country. I mentioned earlier, there's the big, beautiful bill that cut $800 billion from Medicaid. And now the Affordable Care Act, like you mentioned, is at stake because of these subsidies likely being allowed to expire. And I'm one of the people that has an Affordable Care Act plan, one of several hundred thousands in Massachusetts and 24 million across the country. And so I definitely know what it's like to have your healthcare on the chopping block. And like you said, the politicians who are making these decisions, I mean, when the federal government was shut down for 40 days this year, they continue to get their healthcare benefits and they continue to get paid. And so they're completely removed, I think, from the reality of the experience that the majority of people have in this country. And the fact is that already healthcare, like I mentioned earlier, is the leading cause of bankruptcy for people in this country. And so it's an entirely broken system. And I think there's a lot of blame to be put at the feet of the Democratic Party as well, because when they had a supermajority in Congress in 2009 and they controlled the White House, they could have passed a universal healthcare plan. And instead, they passed the Affordable Care Act, which maintains healthcare in this country as an industry, where these health insurance companies and the pharmaceutical companies are raking in billions of dollars. And it's not really about providing healthcare, it's about making profits for these companies. And so I definitely think that the subsidies should be extended, and that's something that I would fight for. But I also believe that we need to overhaul our healthcare system and make it not oriented around profit, but oriented around meeting people's needs. And one more thing I'll say on that is I also think that the Democrats have taken such a passive stance on the question of healthcare, because they did the government shutdown and they allowed so many federal workers to go without pay for weeks. They allowed the airports to become a mess, but they didn't actually encourage people to take action themselves. And they didn't really explain what was at stake with the government shutdown. And my politics is, like I said, predicated on the fact that what people do collectively matters. And so I think that the Democratic Party really fell short of explaining the stakes of the fight and inviting their voters, their supporters all across the country to take action together to put pressure on the Republican Party. Really, instead, they just allowed people to suffer. And I think they're hoping that people suffering under the Republican Party's leadership is going to lead to people voting for the Democrats in the 2026 midterm elections. But I don't think that's really productive or really a genuine political strategy. I think it's kind of opportunistic.
Yeah, they're basically just waiting on the Republicans to be so bad, and so that things swing back in their direction. On your website here, you do talk about your program. It says time's up for the billionaires. Capitalism is a national emergency. The solution is socialism. You talk about we have the means, we need the power. Seize the top 100 corporations and reorganize the economy to meet our needs. Let's talk about this one for just a second. When you say that we have the means, but we need the power, because I think a lot of times people just feel hopeless because we're not in positions of power, right? Like, but there's more of us. What are some of these ways that we could work together effectively to utilize the numbers that we have so that we can have that power?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, just on the point of the program, I do want to say part of what we're trying to establish here is that the historic problem that humanity has often faced is scarcity. Like since the beginning of time and figuring out, how do we use fire and electricity and nature to be able to make sure that we can feed ourselves, be protected from the elements, etc. That's not the problem that we face today, right? We have immense wealth. There's more homeless people or more empty homes in Massachusetts than there are homeless people, and that's true of the entire country. We throw out 40% of our food supply every year, and so we actually live in a society of abundance, but we just woefully misallocate those resources. And so part of this campaign is education for our people about the fact that there are real tangible solutions we can put in place. And the biggest barrier to those solutions being implemented is the 900 billionaires who represent 0.0003% of the population, and the politicians who represent their interests. So I think that's a big part of where our power starts, is the fact that information is so heavily controlled by the corporate media. It's controlled by the elected officials who really don't want us to understand the reality of what our society is, and the fact that the barriers to us having the things that we need is the system that is oriented around profit. And so that's one of the big goals of this campaign, is to raise that consciousness and get people to believe in an independent politics, a politics that's independent of the billionaire class and independent of their two parties, and building something for ourselves. And I think we can look to history that when people have taken mass action together in an organized way, whether that's through strikes, boycotts, other types of demonstrations, that's when history is made. And I want to reference like the civil rights movement, the abolitionist movement, the New Deal, and the struggles during the Great Depression, because I think we should really learn from our history and the fact that ordinary people like us have made a big difference when we've come together and taken collective action to fight for our interests instead of being led by the Democratic or Republican parties who actually don't have our interests in mind. So I think that's the first step, is being conscious of the fact that we have a shared interest as the majority of people in this country, and that if we take action together to fight for the lives that we deserve, then we can really make a big impact.
Yeah, I want to add to what you said about like we do have a food abundance, and we do have, when I used to wait tables, we used to throw away so much food at the end of the night, and it used to drive me crazy. And we were not allowed, for people who don't know, like we can't just donate that food to a homeless shelter. Like there's laws against it, but we used to throw away a lot of food that was never touched, of course, never used. So I've seen it. The vacant houses. This is another thing I continue to tell people. There's a lot of vacant buildings. There are a lot of vacant homes right here in Massachusetts and in Boston. There are even some of these affordable housing units, these buildings that are classified as affordable housing. A lot of them are vacant. So it's not that we don't have apartments. We don't have homes. We do have them, but there's a lot of things that are not being, utilized in the way that I feel like they really could. This is a good question here from Marco. What does he think about worker cooperatives? Good question.
Good question, Marco. I think worker cooperatives are a good thing. I think that any organization of working people to break from the exploitation and oppression of the capitalist system is important and valuable. And also, I think that the question of political power is very important because it allows us to think at such great scale. And the crises that we're facing in our society really can only be addressed by a mass mobilization of resources. And when I'm talking about crises, I'm like climate change. Climate change has somehow been removed from the political table in discussions of the Democratic or Republican Party. It's like I grew up in an era where, I was watching The Day After Tomorrow and hearing, if we don't do XYZ by 2030, we're not going to have a future for our planet. And now 2030 is soon 4 years away, and we haven't done anything. We're actually backsliding on the question of climate change, especially because of these data centers that are being built for AI, the AI arms race, and which presents another potential crisis for working people, because as billionaires who control AI are developing it and using it to lay off workers to automate jobs, we're going to have an even bigger unemployment crisis than we already do. So just to say that the scale of problems in our society is so huge that while I support all the individual efforts of working people, whether it's through co-ops or unions or tenants associations or anything else to improve our lot, I think we really need to be looking at the question of fighting for political power and controlling the resources in our society, because that's ultimately how we're going to overcome the inequality, climate change, war, and all these other crises that are being thrust on us by the capitalist system.
Good question here from Zachary. But Mass is a state that is actually passing somewhat progressive state legislation, including wealth taxes. There is more help needed at the state level to build on that work. So this is an interesting question. Why not run for the state house for one of the local positions?
Yeah, 100%. I think it goes back to what I was talking about before. I'll give this example. In Massachusetts, right now, about 60% of fourth graders and 60% of eighth graders are reading below grade level. We have a major literacy crisis in our schools. And Massachusetts actually ranks #1 in public education across the country. And so as bad as the literacy outcomes are here in Massachusetts, they are even worse across the country. Now, we have the Fair Share Amendment in Massachusetts, which added an additional 4% tax to people who make over $1 million a year. And through the Fair Share Amendment, Governor Maura Healey allocated $25 million additional funding to public schools across Massachusetts in an effort to increase literacy. It's like a specific literacy initiative. Now, to spend an additional $25 million on education in every single state, all 50 states across the country, would cost the federal government $1.25 billion. To give an additional $100 million to all 50 states, it would cost the federal government $5 billion. And then when you compare that with what we're doing with billionaire tax cuts, what we're doing with cuts to Medicaid and SNAP of hundreds of billions of dollars, and investing hundreds of billions of dollars of additional funding in the military and ICE instead, it shows just the complete abdication of responsibility that our federal government is having towards meeting people's needs. And so I think it's actually very important on a federal level to raise the banner on the fact that we have the resources to do so much more for our children, for our families, for every single person in this country. And what seems like a huge amount of money to us, because like $5 billion is a huge amount of money for us, and it would throw an additional 100 million into every single state for education across the country. It's a drop in the bucket for the federal budget. And again, I think that that conversation is absent from the Senate right now, and it shouldn't be, because I think once people become conscious of the fact that the government is misusing and abusing our resources so deeply, and the fact that other solutions to address the cost of living crisis and all the problems we're facing in our society actually could be on the table, I think that can be a force that helps spark a movement to transform society. And so as much as I respect people doing organizing on all levels of society, city-wide, statewide, and federal, I think it's really necessary to have a socialist program in the discourse of federal elections, because the scale of resources there is just so gigantic and could be transformative if the political power was in our hands instead of in the hands of the billionaire interests.
Yeah. One more question for you here, Joe. Thank you, Roger Meadows. Right now, there is no Senate sponsor for Chicago Congressman Danny K. Davis National Infrastructure Bank, aka a national public bank. Would you sponsor twin bill in the Senate or co-sponsor Gillibrand/Sanders postal banking bill? Good question.
Yeah, another good question. I can't speak to those specific bills because I haven't read all the details, but I think the spirit of public investment is something I definitely agree with. And again, I think if you look at the top 100 corporations are worth $30 trillion combined. Not all that is liquid money, but just to give you a scale of the amount of wealth that's in those corporations, not to mention how much could be generated by a wealth tax on assets above $10 million. And so there's already a huge federal budget that's misallocated. And then on top of that, we could be creating more resources for our government if we didn't allow such a small class of people to hoard so much wealth. And I do think that the investment of those funds should be coming from the public realm and not to generate profits for these corporate banks, but instead the investment should be really having the interests of society in mind. And to give an example of what I think could be accomplished through that, in the 1930s and 40s, the federal government created about 10 million jobs through the New Deal, right? The Civilian Conservation Corps, through the Works Progress Administration. And those are jobs that created dams and national parks and infrastructure all across the country that is still lasting to this day. And now we're facing a crisis of unemployment, a long-term crisis of unemployment. I mean, especially in the Black community, the unemployment rate is double that of the national average. We just saw the jobs report today that the unemployment rate right now is higher than it has been in 2021, since 2021. And then there's the question of decreasing prospects for long-term employment because of automation and AI. Why shouldn't we create a federal jobs program to invest in the care economy, like healthcare, like education, in investing in infrastructure across the country, transforming our energy grid to be renewable, building high-speed rail? Those are all things that could be high-paying, unionized, quality jobs funded by the federal government if, again, we are using our huge assets at hand to invest in the needs of society and the needs of regular everyday people instead of just funneling money to the corporate elites. So the spirit of public investment in order to benefit society, I 100% am for. And I think that is really one of the essences of a socialist vision for the reorganization of society.
All right. Joe Tashe is running for Senate against Senator Ed Markey. He is running through the Party of Socialism and Liberation, also known as PSL. Joe, where can people go to support you?
You can go to tasheforma.com. That's our website. We're also Tashe for MA on social media, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. And I'll also say that Ed Markey started the campaign with $2.4 million in the bank. Seth Moulton is working to primary him, started with $2.1 million in the bank. And a lot of that money comes from corporate interests. We didn't start with that because we don't take money from super PACs, from APAC, from any billion interests. And so that's also a big need for the campaign is small donations from regular everyday people because they use that money to be visible in every corner of the state. And we know that our program is popular, but we need the resources to reach everybody across Massachusetts and invite them to be part of our campaign. So you could also figure out how to support the campaign with a donation, even if you're not living in Massachusetts, but you support the vision by going to our website as well.
All right. Seth Moulton. Oh, my God. Thank you. Thank you, Joe. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Sabrina. It was great talking with you.
You too.
Bye.
Bye. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Joe Tashe running for Senate against Ed Markey through the Party of Socialism and Liberation. And Ed Markey, it looks like it's a busy race because Seth Moulton jumped into this too as well. Jesus Christ, if there hasn't been a bigger cornball than Seth Moulton, I don't know who is. All right, ladies and gentlemen, tonight's theme is signed, sealed, delivered, just like the Stevie Wonder song. It's been signed, sealed, delivered. I'm yours. All right, let's go to some of the comments. We'll shout out patrons, and then we'll dive into our next stories, ladies and gents. Thank you for the super chat, Measured Man. Candace over there like Boys to Men on bended knees. She don't understand the words coming out of her mouth like Chris Tucker. Oh, man. Oh, boy. I wonder what these comments, these other ones say. Alternative Chick said, Sabby, have you been paying attention to Luigi Mangione hearings? Vaguely, I do have to catch up. That's why I haven't covered it yet. But once I catch up, I'll dive into that as well. Azani, not really understanding why people are up in arms about Candace rundown. Sounds like they basically met up to exchange information and get clarity on some things. I don't see anything wrong with that. Yeah, I got to tell you guys when we get to that story, because the chat was... The live chat was something else. Zen says, Candace update summary. It was all a misunderstanding, and I'll take their word for it. Since when? Oh, boy. Wait till we get to that story. Thank you, Measured Men. President of the Jack and Jill chapter, Kamala. Sabby, remember I supported Steve Pemberton trying to get Markey out. That's right. That's right. Thank you, Imberg. Live in Massachusetts and proudly voted for a PSL for POTUS. I am itching for a party that goes further than the Greens. All right. Shout out to Max Roy for the super sticker. Thank you. Thank you again, M. Berg. Is me the homes with next? I can't afford to stay in my parents' home when they passed away. Oh, for me, it's the homes. Okay. What will Joe do that Markey won't as his constituent like housing first? I would say, I'm sorry, I missed this when he was here, but I would say check his website for that because he has a whole rundown on those issues. But thank you, Imberg. Let's get that comment on Rockfin and let's keep it moving and grooving. Hey, hey, hey. Signed, sealed, delivered. I'm yours. Thank you, Dave. Thanks for this interview, Sabs. Good to interview real local activists, non-politicians that stand for office. Thank you. Like a fool, I went away too long. Sorry. I love Stevie Wonder's songs. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and give a shout out to the patrons. Thank you guys so much for your support. Really do appreciate you, fam. If you're interested in being a patron, I have 5 categories: Ultimate, Sabinators, Sabsters. There's also Sabbies. And don't forget about members. All of their names are listed here, ladies and gentlemen. And you can also see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen there on the ticker. Thank you. Thank you guys so much. Really do appreciate you. I know I need to still put up my YouTube plaque. It is here. It's it's right here. It's just been sitting right here next to the desk because I have to move things around to put it up there. So I have to rework some things back there. I bet you this much. When we come back for the new year, it'll be all set. I'll figure it out. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't done so, do me a solid and smash that like button. Thank you. If you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share, just like a Care Bear. The theme tonight, again, ladies and gentlemen, is signed, sealed, and delivered. And have they delivered on many of these claims? We're going to see with this first story here about the FBI. Kash Patel and his FBI cronies have decided to announce that apparently they prevented a future attack for New Year's Eve in Los Angeles by capturing 4 individuals that they say were planning to commit some type of terror activity. So I told you guys a couple of days ago, I'm very suspect of all of these attacks that are happening back to back so close together. You know, I had a feeling something like this would happen before the end of the year. And I really do believe that this is all happening to basically point fingers towards left organizations, clamp down on left organizations, clamp down on social media. I'm going to show you a statement from someone tonight that proves that. And basically to censor the hell out of us and push more pro-Israel narratives. I really do believe this. Let's go ahead and get into this clip here. This was the first place I saw it. Shout out to Hotspot for this one.
The FBI now reports that it's disrupted a planned New Year's Eve terror attack in Los Angeles. 4 suspects in custody, the FBI identifying them as members of a pro-Palestine extremist group. They're suspected of planning coordinated IED attacks targeting 5 different locations in Los Angeles. But based on the reporting now, that plot has been foiled. We will wait.
So notice that they had to say they were pro-Palestinian activists. And that for me is the red flag, right? Oh, they just happen to be pro-Palestinian activists. So adding that little nugget in there really does make a difference, I think. That's why I feel like they're trying to point the finger and say, see, we told you that these radical leftists, these pro-Palestinian activists are dangerous, and we're going to have to clamp down on social media and much, much more.
For more out of LA or out of Washington, D.C., for what the FBI has to say about that developing story. The FBI now reports that it's disrupted.
So Kash Patel, let's go to him here. Kash Patel is at it again, right? So when have you seen, I haven't seen this in my lifetime, when have you seen this many number of attacks happen back to back to back to back like this, so close together? And they seem to label all of these people as either pro-Palestinian activists or radical leftists, right? This is still Trump's first year of this presidential term. And all these things back to back to back. And you know what else happens this week? Friday is the day that they are releasing the Epstein files. This has been announced multiple times. And I feel like every time they get closer and closer to releasing the Epstein files, something else just happens to happen. And I don't believe that's a coincidence. I really don't. Let's go on to the next part here. As you'll see, let me go ahead and share this with you guys. I want to show you who they are. The FBI says the group had intentions of bombing 5 locations in Southern California on New Year's Eve. So look at this. These are the people that they arrested. 4 charged with plotting SoCal New Year's Eve attack, ID'd as members of Turtle Island Liberation Front. I mean, they can come up with anything. And it wouldn't be the first time that the FBI has been known to plant evidence on people, to plant things on people, to accuse people of things they didn't do. Don't forget, this is the same organization that went after the Black Panthers, that went after MLK, that went after Malcolm X. So I never trust the FBI, regardless who is in the White House at that point in time. But these are the people that they said were planning this attack. Okay. And notice that they're not showing their eyes. Their eyes are covered with the words "in custody." All right. So I believe these people are fall guys. I really do. Let's get into the statement that was made by the Attorney General in Los Angeles. Now, this is Attorney General Elisay. I believe that's how you pronounce his last name. So listen to what he says here.
Over the weekend, my office, along with the FBI, arrested members of a far-left, anti-government domestic terror cell who self-identify as the Turtle Island Liberation Front. The individuals were arrested on Friday, December 12th, when the group attempted to construct and detonate IEDs out in the desert. In addition to the arrests, we executed several search warrants throughout the nation. I want to thank our partners at the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Western District of Louisiana, U.S. Attorney Zach Keller, and the U.S. Attorney for the District of Massachusetts, Lee Foley, for providing valuable assistance over the weekend with a very complex and coordinated search warrants that were done. The charges we are announcing today stem from the defendants and their co-conspirators' detailed coordinated plot to bomb multiple U.S. companies on New Year's Eve. Thankfully, that plot has now been foiled thanks to the hard work of the FBI and the Department of Justice. This investigation was initiated in part due to the September 2025 executive order signed by President Trump to root out left-wing domestic terror organizations in our country, such as Antifa and other radical groups like the Turtle Island Liberation Front.
Here we go again. What did I tell you? Radical left organizations, right? So we have to use our brains. We do not know that this group, or if they're even, if they really are a group, we do not know that they are what Bill Elisay says they are. We don't know that they're domestic. We don't know that if they're domestic terrorists or not. But this is what they have named them. This is what they are calling them. We don't know that to be certain. Don't forget, they said this about the Black Panthers. And the Black Panthers were out there trying to feed people. They had a free breakfast program where they were feeding people in their community. They were doing mutual aid. These people are radical. And yes, they own guns, but so did other people. So my big fear is that they're going to continue to come after left organizations. And if you're a left organization, you're just going to be deemed as a domestic terrorist, Antifa style, whatever. Antifa isn't even what they're trying to make it to be. So they have to create a narrative in order to go after these people. And let me tell you something else that they've been known for doing. Sometimes law enforcement, they may have a feeling that someone is guilty or they're doing something wrong, but they can't prove it. So what do? They plant evidence so that they can arrest them. That has happened before. So I just find this very, very difficult, very hard to believe. Remember, there's two sides to a story. We haven't heard their side of the story. So I feel like they're trying to garner up, this domestic terrorist energy to prove, we really got to crack down on crime. We got to go out there. And the next thing you know, all of these left organizations will be shut down.
As the president made clear, recent attacks across the country have highlighted the grave threats posed by these far-left domestic terror groups. These threats are sophisticated, organized campaigns of targeted intimidation, radicalization, threats, and violence designed to silence opposing speech, limit political activity, and direct policy outcomes, and prevent the proper functioning of a democratic society.
There's that word again, democratic. And this is something you'll hear both parties use, but democratic. So basically what they are saying is that if you take issue with the government and the government's actions, that's considered to them to be undemocratic, right? If you're an organizer or an activist, some of these people are also being called radical and far left just for being an organizer, just for being an activist. Look at how they come after the pro-Palestinian protesters. You're considered a radical leftist. You're a domestic terrorist in this country. But you never see them go after actual groups that are exhibiting and are behaving in such a way that does cause terror. You don't see them go after those actual people. You see them go after organizations that are against the US government, which is totally fine for you to do, by the way. You have a right to oppose what the US government is doing. This is the United States of America. So this is very dangerous here. And I don't trust Kash Patel, and I don't think you guys should either.
In response to the president's order, the Attorney General issued a memo to our offices implementing and mobilizing federal law enforcement to prioritize and counter domestic terrorism and political violence investigations. As a result of those directives, we built this case. Both my office and the FBI have invested substantial resources into investigating and charging these organizations. And if anyone does not believe that members of these groups are organized, sophisticated, and extremely violent, let me tell you about the plot in this case. The four defendants are Audrey Carroll, 30 years old. The pictures, I think we have them somewhere. We'll put them up here. Audrey Carroll, 30 years old. Zachary Aaron Page, 32. Dante Gaffield, 24. And Tina Lay, 41. Each from the Los Angeles area. Each is charged with conspiracy and possession of an unregistered destructive device in violation of Title 26, United States Code Section 5861D. We intend to file additional charges in the coming weeks as we finish reviewing the evidence. The defendants are all radical anti-government members of the Turtle Island Liberation Front, which according to their own social media is an anti-capitalist, anti-government movement that calls for their associates to rise up and fight back against capitalism.
Pause. Ding, 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 ding. Does everybody see it now? So they are now saying that organizations that are anti-capitalist, anti-government, and asking people to rise up and fight back against capitalism are now seen as domestic terrorist organizations. I don't believe these people had those products there to build bombs. I believe it was planted. I believe what is happening is that Kash Patel, instead of wasting his time on stuff like this, instead of utilizing his time to track down all these people that are in the Epstein files, they are using that energy to go after left organizations that are mainly anti-capitalist organizations. What they are doing is they are now telling you that anti-capitalism is seen as domestic terrorism. What is happening to this country? In this country, you have the right to assemble. Supposedly. You have the right to create organizations, supposedly. So if they're coming after them for being anti-capitalist, how long before they come after other left groups that are anti-capitalist as well? Don't forget, the gentleman who just came on the show, Joe Tashe, is a part of PSL. Don't forget they were coming after PSL as well. So they can change the meaning. They can change what it means to be considered domestic terrorists. It can go from being anti-capitalist. It can go from being, I don't know, like someone who, like, say, an organization that's just third party. They can change it to fit what they want it to mean. So now you don't have the right to be anti-capitalist in this country. So I think they're going through a list of groups. And they're like, oh, okay, they got a website here, says they're anti-capitalist. Let's go take them down. And I think they're probably planting these things. Wouldn't be the first time.
One of the leaders of the organization, defendant Audrey Carroll, helped organize an even more radical faction of the group called the Order of the Black Lotus. Each of the defendants charged today was also a member of the Order of the Black Lotus. Carroll described this group to her co-conspirators as everything radical. As detailed in the federal complaint, which we will now make public, in November 2025, defendant Carol created a detailed bombing plot to use explosive devices to attack 5 or more locations across Southern California on this upcoming New Year's Eve. Carol and her co-defendant, Zachary Page, led the effort to obtain and build the bombs and to recruit others to join in their plot.
Again, we have no proof of this. So keep that in mind, folks. These people are not going to have a fair trial.
Carol's bomb plot was explicit. It included a step-by-step instructions to build IEDs or improvised explosive devices and listed multiple targets across Orange County and Los Angeles. Carol also made clear her desires. She said, quote, "What we are doing will be considered a terrorist act." Carol and Page also discussed plans for follow-up attacks after their bombings, which included plans to target ICE agents and vehicles with pipe bombs.
Now, do you guys believe they actually wrote all that out? Do you actually believe they wrote that down, that this would be considered a terrorist act? This is why I say we have to use our brains.
Carol stated that those plans would, quote, "take some of them out and scare the rest." Throughout early December, the co-conspirators discussed their plans during an in-person meeting in Los Angeles and through an encrypted messaging application. As part of the plan, the 4 defendants planned to build test bombs in the Mojave Desert. You're going to hear more details about the bombs they intended to build and how the operation went down in the desert here shortly from the FBI.
So let's stop here for just a second. So you mean to tell me they were just looking at organizations' websites? They said that it's on their website. And that organization, when they went to hunt them down, they just happened to have all these different devices to build bombs and to implement an attack. And they apparently also wrote these things down, or it was included in some type of chat group or something like that. You mean to tell me it just happened to work out that way? So, and in the desert. So there's a number of these that are happening, these attacks back to back. And you'll see here's Pam Bondi. After an intense investigation, the DOJ, working with the FBI, prevented what would have been a massive and horrific terror plot in the Central District of California, Orange County, and LA. The Turtle Island Liberation Front, here we go again, a far left, pro-Palestine, anti-government, and anti-capitalist group, was preparing to conduct a series of bombings against multiple targets in California beginning on New Year's Eve. That's Pam Bondi. Here's Max Blumenthal. Looks like another terror plot manufactured by the FBI, which relied on a well-paid confidential human informant to justify repression of leftist protest groups. The targets here operated in a recently IG account with less than 1,000 followers. So this is meant to instill fear into you, right? Like, obviously, it will make people want to protest less, or maybe they're afraid of protesting now because they don't want to be contacted by the FBI. They don't want to be arrested by the FBI and have something planted on them. And Max has this screenshot here. The CHS is cooperating with law enforcement and is a validated and vetted source. The CHS has been a reliable source of information since in or around August 2021. The CHS is cooperating for financial compensation. The CHS does not have any criminal history. The CHS provided past reliable reporting on other cases and has provided reliable reporting in this case. So again, CHS basically means informant. But Max Blumenthal is able to call out the BS, right? So he tells you again, it's a manufactured plot by the FBI. And it's so obvious to people who are really digging into these types of things and paying attention. Not obvious to those who are not. And I want to forewarn you, listen to the message that is already coming out. Like I said about the crackdown, Rabbi Kaplan Trump's pick for combating anti-Semitism says the State Department is going to have a whole division for fighting anti-Semitism and changing social media algorithms with the help of tech leaders. Listen to this.
The president is sending a very strong message. Think about it. Ironically, I get off a plane. I am the president's representative, and I am walking off with a yarmulke, and I have kosher food, and embassies will have kosher food. It is a game changer. The appointment is a game changer. And it's not about history. It's about education. And how do we educate? Indonesia has 350 million Muslims living in the country. How do we change their textbooks? How do we hold the people in Gaza accountable that if America is paying for UN textbooks and supposedly the changes are made, why are those textbooks not being used, and why are they using their old textbooks?
This guy is publicly talking about changing the textbooks to get people on accord with the pro-Israel Zionist genocidal movement.
We have to teach people it's not okay to educate your kids to be a martyr. Okay? And we have to hold those countries accountable. How do we battle anti-Semitism on the internet? How are we doing better on algorithms? What companies can we work with? We are going to have a whole division within the office of the Special Envoy to combat anti-Semitism that is going to work on technology and working with the greatest leaders in technology, many of whom are Jewish and have offered their assistance. The office is going to be revamped entirely to be one of the highest profile offices in the State Department, because that's what the secretary wants and that's what the president wants.
As I said, this is the goal. And you never see them do this with any other group, with any other group of people. Nobody else gets this type of energy. And to make it worse, pay attention to what's happening with this group, Stop Anti-Semitism, which calls out people for being anti-Semitic that aren't actually anti-Semitic. Listen to what the founder says here. Guys, pay close attention.
Which community did not choose, but one that we are now fully engaged in, confronting the global explosion of Jew hatred unleashed since the attacks of 10/7. Stop Anti-Semitism was built for this. For years, we exposed hate, pressured institutions, and delivered consequences. But after 10/7, the scale of threat and the urgency of our mission changed dramatically overnight. Since that day, we have featured more than 1,000 anti-Semites on our platforms. 1,000. Not theorized about them, not quietly documented them, feature them publicly, clearly, and with evidence. The results speak for themselves.
The evidence that she's talking about here isn't evidence of people being anti-Semitic. It's evidence of people criticizing Israel. That's what it really is. So this is why they want to conflate Zionism with Judaism, because they want to be able to say that if you criticize Israel, then you are anti-Semitic. They want those two things to go together. And so it's not, oh, this person despises Zionism. It's this person despises Jewish people, even though a lot of Jewish people here, especially in the United States, are anti-Zionists. So this is really interesting. So listen very closely to Cruella de Vil, because that's what she looks like. I don't know what's going on with this woman's face. Cruella de Vil here.
Approximately 400 of these Jew haters have faced real consequences, including firings, suspensions, and expulsions. More than 300 of them remain in an active investigatory state across universities, corporations, DEI departments, unions, hospitals, nonprofits, and yes, unfortunately, federal government agencies. And yes, 5 arrests to date tied directly to threats and violence of anti-Semitic conduct we helped expose. This is what accountability looks like. This is what action looks like. This is what pushing back hard looks like against the tidal wave of hate that has consumed the United States and global population. From our founding, Stop Anti-Semitism has operated on one guiding belief. Anti-Semitism thrives when there are no consequences. So we created consequences, a lot of them. We created visibility. We turned the spotlight towards those who targeted on our community, making silence impossible. On campuses where Jewish students were hunted through libraries, where professors glorified Hamas and Hezbollah terrorists, where mobs shut down our buildings and administrators hid under desks, we stepped in. We documented the offenders. We worked with attorneys, lawmakers, and victim families, and we ensured the message was not mistakable. If you target Jewish students, your actions will not disappear into the darkness. We will shine a light on you that, thanks to Google and SEO, will follow you for the rest of your life. When you look for a job, when you look for a spouse, when you look for a nanny, when you look for anything, our work will always be documented. Again, thanks to Google and SEO.
Getting people fired from their jobs. No other group receives this type of support and energy when they are targeted. And what's interesting is people coming after the belief of Zionism is not people coming after people for being Jewish. People are against genocide. That's not anti-Semitic. This is what I was talking about. This is what they are willing to do. This is what they're doing. People are getting fired. She's like, it'll follow you wherever you go. This country is literally advocating for this type of supremacy. And people ask me, why do you continue to, call out like the Black politicians who support Israel? Because all of them sit up there and say that they support racial justice here in the United States. And you can't have it both ways. You really can't. How you supporting racial justice, but you supporting a supremacist project? You can't have it both ways. You don't see any of these types of repercussions happen for any other group. FM just said it. Anti-Black racism thrives when no one speaks up. No other group gets these types of repercussions. None. So when you look at this report from the FBI, where they are claiming that these individuals were planning this terror attack in California, you need to know that there's two sides of the story. We haven't heard their side, but they've already been deemed as guilty in the public eye. And a lot of people are falling for it. This is the signed, sealed, delivered. Signed, sealed, delivered, I'm yours. Because these are the steps that they took here. Oh, this group has a website. Oh, okay, let's go ahead and get them because they're anti-capitalist. But then you go to seek them out and you can't really find anything. So a lot of times they plant things on people. This is what I've been telling people for years that the police was doing. Even though like BLM Global Network, they got rich, they took some money, they decided to make a profit, and it sucks. Because the message that should have been really sent to people is that the police force is inherently corrupt. The police is trained by the IDF. The police, they have been known to plant evidence on people. I've covered stories about this on the show. The FBI is no different. They all working for the same master. And that's what people have to understand. So they found these websites. They say, oh, they're anti-capitalist. They go after them. And a lot of times they can't find anything to actually arrest them. So they'll plant something. Then they take them in. Then they're the first ones to get the narrative out. And usually the first one that gets the narrative out is the one that people usually believe. Although things have been changing a little bit this year. But usually that's how it works. And then they got the Zionists to come on in, and the Zionists come in and they say, oh yeah, we're going to go after all these people. We need to go after social media. We need to target all of it. Three steps: signed, sealed, delivered. And they delivered the narrative to you, and they got the narrative out first. So we have to pay attention. We got to be, vigilant here in these moments, because I was surprised seeing the number of people who were falling for this that didn't fall for the Charlie Kirk thing. So they're going to keep, I think we'll keep seeing these things happen until they get us on our side. And then what they're going to do, then they're going to try to tell us, see, we can prevent even more crimes and casualties if we increase surveillance. And I hate to say it, folks, but I think many people are going to fall for it. I think many people are going to believe it, that if we increase surveillance, if they watch our every move, that they're going to be more safe. But then, of course, obviously, they're going to use that in nefarious ways. Pay attention. Stay vigilant. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gentlemen. Eric, we can go to part 2 of Type VNC. Thank you, Measured Man. Oh, sorry, I got that one. Thank you, Libertarian Social Democrat. That is an interesting ideology. Can you talk about Senator Turbeville anti-Islam remarks? I haven't seen them. I'll have to check that out. It's hard to keep up with it these days. Thank you, Tates. There are no real men in America. Thank you, Dre. The left did the same thing with the January 6th pipe bomber, immediately decided it was someone with Republican Party ideology. Fair is fair. That's true. And that's the thing I'm trying to get people to understand is, like, stop looking at it as left versus right. Look at it as top versus down. Look at it as corrupt. Iseli, thank you. Thank you, Kareem. They arrest pro-Palestinian students, but let Ben Gvir in. Yes. Thank you, William. Left now, future, anyone they deem terrorist, danger. Thank you for this one, William. AI, pre-crime, police state, martial law, rights gone. Yep. Thank you, Louise. It's why they picked Antifa. Vague and makes them able to label anyone Antifa, which becomes a terrorist label. Manufacturing fear. It's all an op. Thank you, Isabel. End of year plus government approval down equals false flags. You guys are so smart. Thank you, Brad. I thought they were going to keep quiet about cases before trial to protect the sanctity of justice. Every time they talk, it's BS. Free the furry lover. Thank you, Focus. If you know about Robert Maxwell, you know they already changed textbooks. There it is. Thank you, Joan. Appreciate you and your work, Sabby Sabs. You keep me sane in a wackadoodle world. May you and yours be richly blessed. I said breast. Thank you. Thank you, Wasim. The only way Zionism falls is when the empire falls. Free Turtle Island. Thank you, Joan. Appreciate you and your work. I think this is a repeat. Yeah, I think you sent that twice. Thank you, Mountain. So many PSYOP false flags ramping up for pre-crime. Thank you, Noah. Zionists went after anti-Zionist Jews first. Many of the college protesters are anti-Zionist Jews. Zionists are as anti-Semitic as anyone. Thank you, Noah. Let's get that comment on Rockvin and let's keep it moving and grooving. Thank you, Roger. Herald Square bomber Shahawar Matan Siraji, William O'Neill of the Chicago chapter of the Black Panther Party, Raymond Epps, January 6th guy who told Trump supporters that they have to rush the Capitol, Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping Michael Mickey Windecker, sent in by FBI to infiltrate the Denver branch of BLM to get them to commit violent acts. They were hired or coerced by the FBI, CIA, or local police to be sent into movements on both the left and the right to disrupt movements outside of Herald Square bomber who was mentally disabled. How did all these informants reveal themselves to be or working for the CIA, FBI, or local police, Sabrina? by trying to get the participants of those movements, those groups, to engage in felonious activities, specifically violent felonies activities, just to make sure the manufactured case that they create sticks. The more violent, the better. Remember, Sabrina, Malcolm X always advocated for using violence from a defensive position, but never an offensive position. He always made it clear he's not calling for violence, but he will use it to protect himself and his family. Yeah, and corporate media and, of course, the FBI, they twisted his words as well. Twisted his words. Okay. All right, let's move on to the next story, ladies and gents. So, like I said, it was a crazy weekend. So director, writer, producer Rob Reiner and his wife were allegedly killed by their son. And there's a lot going into this story. From what I understand, their son was struggling with drug addiction, at least in the past, and also had mental health issues as well. And I think what's really interesting about all of this is the way that people are responding to it, right? So we'll bring this in here for a little bit. And I do just want to show you the response that's being made by Donald Trump, and also the response that is being made by Susie Wills, who is Trump's chief of staff. Donald Trump is having a really bad week, and more people are starting to call out his BS. So this is Rob Reiner's son, and he is arrested, and they are saying that he is the one who killed his parents. Listen to this.
The son of the Hollywood power couple, Rob and Michelle Reiner, now awaiting charges for their murders. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kira Phillips. In less than 2 hours, the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office will hold a news conference while the Reiner's son, Nick, is behind bars, suspected of stabbing his parents to death inside their L.A. home on Sunday. But more than likely, you won't see Nick in court. His attorney says he's just not medically cleared to appear before a judge today. It comes as fans and friends mourn the death of the couple, including former First Lady Michelle Obama, who says she and Barack were supposed to see the Reiners the day they were murdered.
They're not deranged or crazed. What they have always been are passionate people in a time when there's not a lot of courage going on. They were the kind of people who were ready to put their actions behind what they cared about. And they cared about their family, and they cared about this country, and they cared about fairness and equity. And that is the truth. I do know them.
Our Melissa Dawn is in downtown Los Angeles outside the courthouse and joins me now for more. So, Melissa, what do we expect to learn at this news conference?
Hey, Kira. So we are anticipating hearing from the Los Angeles District Attorney Nathan Hochman. He's going to be joined by the LAPD chief. This is where they're expected to share more details and really paint a picture as to what they know so far happened Sunday afternoon to the Reiners. Now, specifically, we are anticipating formal charges to be filed against Nick Reiner. That is Michelle and Rob Reiner's 32-year-old son, who is right now booked in a downtown Los Angeles jail just a few blocks away from where we are. He is being held without bail. But at this point, we have heard from his attorney saying that he is not medically cleared yet to appear in front of a court. So this may delay some of those procedural hearings. But again, what's really important is in a few hours, we are expected to hear from the DA. And that's where we are anticipating formal charges against Nick Reiner for murdering his parents.
Now, let's talk about this for a little bit here. From what I understand, there are reports that the family were at a recent party, and there was, I guess, an argument, a disagreement between Nick and them at a recent party. And I don't know if that led to this allegedly, because again, like I said, it's two sides to a story. They are saying that he is the one who did it. But again, two sides to a story. Let's keep that in mind. But I will say this, for those who are not aware who Rob Reiner is responsible for giving us movies like Stand By Me, When Harry Met Sally, Wolf of Wall Street. He made some memorable, great movies. Stand By Me is probably still one of my favorite movies. I think that's a classic, right? And I didn't always agree with some of the things that Rob Reiner said on Twitter. Because especially when it came to Russia and Ukraine, it seemed like he was pro-war in certain, some certain instances. He would not criticize the Biden administration at all, even when they were blatantly in the wrong. So he was basically a blue no matter who. But just because I disagree with some of the comments that he had on X, on social media, that doesn't mean that I'm going to say woohoo and like cheer for what happened to him. Now, that's my position. Now, I seem to remember that after Charlie Kirk was killed, I said the same thing. I said, don't cheer this on. What happened to Charlie Kirk can happen to anyone. And any other podcaster that you may like. So you don't like Charlie Kirk, but you do like other ones. And instead of him, it could have been someone else. So I was consistent about that. And I seem to remember Donald Trump and many others also said during that time that it's wrong for people to cheer on his death. It's wrong for people not to. Remember, they were coming after people on social media. They were trying to get people fired from their jobs because of what they said on social media about Charlie Kirk's death. Remember that? So now Donald Trump is getting a taste of his own medicine because now some of his own supporters are coming after him for the comments that he made about Rob Reiner. Max Burns said, I don't want to hear another sanctimonious word from Republicans who accused Democrats of not showing enough sadness when Charlie Kirk died. Donald Trump's message about Rob and Michelle Reiner's death is a monstrosity. So let me show you what Donald Trump said. A very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling but once very talented movie director and comedy star, has passed away together with his wife, Michelle, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome, something referred to as TDS. He was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession of President Donald J. Trump, with his obvious paranoia reaching new heights as the Trump administration surpassed all goals and expectations of greatness, and with the golden age of America upon us, perhaps like never before. May Rob and Michelle rest in peace. So, first of all, it's inappropriate. It's inappropriate coming from the president of the United States. And could you have imagined if a Democrat politician would have made a statement like that about Charlie Kirk after he passed away? And to be fair, the Democrat politicians did not go that route. But this is a lot of hypocrisy. Now, of course, he was questioned about this. I want you to hear what he says here. I don't think this is any better.
A number of Republicans have denounced your statement on Truth Social after the murder of Rob Reiner. Do you stand by that post?
Well, I wasn't a fan of his at all. He was a deranged person as far as Trump is concerned. He said he knew it was false. In fact, it's the exact opposite, that I was a friend of Russia, controlled by Russia. You know, it was the Russia hoax. He was one of the people behind it. I think he hurt himself in career-wise. He became like a deranged person, Trump derangement syndrome. So I was not a fan of Rob Reiner at all in any way, shape, or form. I thought he was very bad for our country. Yeah.
So this is what I'm talking about, right? He said, well, I didn't like him. I didn't really Yeah, well, there were many that didn't like Charlie Kirk either. And this is what I've been saying about Donald Trump. Rules for thee, but not for me. He can say what he wants to say. He can do what he wants to do, but you better not think about it. It's inappropriate. And a lot of people are calling it out. And I want to go ahead and bring this up here. When I say that Trump is shamed, I want you to see all the people who These are Trump supporters. This is Brillen Hollyhan. Remember, he's the guy that's supposed to be in line to become the next Charlie Kirk. Listen to what he said about it.
No, just no. This is not the way. We can't with one hand call out the left when they laugh at and celebrate Charlie Kirk's assassination just a few weeks ago, but on the other hand, normalize, condone, and tell people to just get a sense of humor when the president makes commentary like this. The situation was tragic. A drug-addicted son killed his mother and father. Did that father have horrible political opinions that were dead wrong? Yes. Did that father make comments about Trump that were insensitive and wrong? Absolutely. Is this a moment to kick them while they're down? Absolutely not. We know better than anybody what political violence is like. They tried to kill Trump twice, and they killed Charlie Kirk. This should be a moment of unity, a moment of our nation coming together to mourn, not a moment to make light of a situation, not a moment to kick them down, certainly not a moment to make the situation political in the slightest. We can't appear to be morally superior when the left does it to us, but the second the roles are reversed and they're down, we do not kick them. We do not act like the left. That is not going to be our party. These commentary, it's frankly disgusting. No.
There you go. He's supposed to be the next Charlie Kirk. He supported Donald Trump, condemns what he says. There are more here. Listen to this one. Emily Jashinsky. How do you say her name? Jashinsky from Breaking Points. I guess she was a part of the Megyn Kelly wrap-up show on Sirius. I want you to listen to comments that came in about what Trump said about Rob Reiner. Again, Megyn Kelly conservative, Emily Jashinsky conservative. The conservative show. Listen to the callers.
Jill in Indiana, you're on the Megyn Kelly wrap-up show. What's on your mind this afternoon?
Hi, just sort of glomming on here, but it matters to me what Donald Trump said, and I'm deeply disappointed. If we value human life as Christians and Americans, then this stuff, it's indefensible to sort of gloat like right after someone dies like that, just for having a difference of opinion.
I'm very disappointed in President Trump. I voted for him 3 times. I still love him as my president, but it was wrong what he did. He should have just kept his mouth shut after the first paragraph. I don't know why he had to bring that up. It was a tragedy, and I didn't like Rob Reiner as a person. Politics. He was really sometimes very virulent from what he was saying about the right, and particularly about Trump too, of course. However, I mean, it really hurts me to the core what happened to him. And I think as a human being, anyone has to be just sad about what happened and not bring politics into it. And Trump just doesn't know when to stop.
I would just like to say that we have a God-fearing president, and he talks about the power of prayer and praying for victims and on and on and on. So let's act like that, President Trump. I voted for you. This is the most sacred season of the year. Turn the other cheek like Christ would.
I will tell you that I've been a Republican my entire life. I voted for Trump twice. I don't consider myself a MAGA Republican, but I do consider myself a conservative. And I think this comment that he made, this post, reminds me a little bit of when Walter Cronkite made an announcement talking about the Vietnam War to the American people, saying if we, and Lyndon Johnson said, if I've lost Walter, I've lost the country. I really think that Trump's comment has just officially put that nail in the coffin.
I just got to say, I mean, we're not conducting a scientific poll here on the Megyn Kelly wrap-up show, but the callers today, our phone lines have genuinely not lit up like this before.
So this is what I was saying. And some people, online, they were asking, well, why is it that people are willing to call him out now? Like, why are they noticing this now? And one of those people was Sagar in Jetty. I just want to show you what he said here. He said, Trump's Reiner comment broke through the normie firewall for reasons I don't fully understand, but it's a signal that his specter of untouchability is beginning to fall apart. I'll explain why this is happening. Because Donald Trump is not actually accomplishing what he ran on, the economy is crap. People still can't afford shit. The prices are still increasing. And more people have started to notice, and the veil is off, that Trump, he bent the knee to Israel, that he's willing to do whatever Benjamin Netanyahu wants to do, that he works for Israel first, not for the American people. You had Marjorie Taylor Greene resign and jump the ship. There's others to follow, by the way, according to the list that's been put out. There's a number more that are going to leave and going to resign. People have jumped the ship. So when the president is not accomplishing these things that he said, these things that he said he was going to do, and people see the economy is still crap and actually has gotten worse, and they saw it was bad under Biden as well. When people see that you're not doing what you're supposed to do, you said you would do for their everyday Americans, then people start to pay closer attention to the shit that you say. That's what's happening. It's more noticeable now. Now, it's not like Trump just began speaking this way. No, he's been speaking this way, and sometimes has said things even worse. But like I said, when working class white people start to get affected, that's when things will change. And that's what's happening. We see that happening with the white farmers that were complaining on multiple networks. They're like, yo, these tariffs are hitting us really hard. I told you, that's what it would take. So now people are paying attention to him more, like, what the hell is he doing? Thomas Massie is another one. Of course, calling it out. Regardless about how you felt about Rob Reiner, this is inappropriate and disrespectful discourse about a man who was just brutally murdered. I guess my GOP colleagues, the VP and the White House staff, will just ignore it because they're afraid. I challenge anyone to defend it. This is what we were talking about, right? So a lot of them are afraid of Donald Trump. But Donald Trump is also being shamed, not just for this, but because of this Vanity Fair article, this interview, which is a series of 11 interviews that was done with Susie. Let's go ahead and bring this in. Susie Wiles sat down with Vanity Fair for 11 interviews. I don't know why. And then tried to say that they misquoted her and she didn't say these things, these negative things about Donald Trump and his administration. But then the guy who interviewed her was able to play the audio recording, proving that she is also a liar. Let's go ahead and get into it. It is wild out here in these streets.
A revealing new interview with really the most powerful person in President Trump's White House beyond him, Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, commenting and going there on a wide range of topics, it seems, with Vanity Fair in a new series of interviews, from the handling of the Epstein investigation to her assessment of the big names on Donald Trump's team. Let's get to CNN's Elena Treen, who is at the White House. There seems to be a lot in there, Elena. What is your big takeaway?
I mean, look, I've covered the president and I've also covered Susie Wiles for years now, Kate, and this is one of the most candid interviews and stories that she's offered, interviews she's offered really from the entire time I've done that. This is incredibly candid, some of the things that she was admitting, because I will tell you too, Wiles is someone who often likes to operate kind of in the shadows and quietly. She doesn't like to draw attention to herself. And that's why I think some of what people are waking up and reading this morning is so stunning to hear about. But let me get into some of the main things that I found very notable from what Chris Whipple, who works with Vanity Fair, detailed from their conversations. One is that Wiles referred to President Trump as someone having a, quote, alcoholic personality. She also talked a lot about the vice president, J.D. Vance, someone who I should note, had this conversion that Whipple noted as well from never Trumper to a MAGA acolyte. Susie Wiles essentially said that change, that conversion has been, quote, sort of political. And she said the vice president has been a, quote, conspiracy theorist for a decade. She also talked about Russell Vought. He is the White House budget chief, but he's also, of course, one of the architects of that notorious Project 2025 conservative blueprint for the future of our Republican Party, something that Trump had previously, of course, disavowed. She argued that Vought is, quote, a right-wing absolute zealot. And then she also went to a number of different things. One, she talked about Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, someone who was one of her closest friends, I should note, in this administration. She argued that Bondi, quote, completely whiffed the handling of the Epstein files. She also talked about how the president, who came in and offered a series of pardons to really roughly 1,000 people who were convicted for their crimes on January 6th, she essentially admitted that she had urged the president not to pardon those who had committed violent crimes on January 6th and on the Capitol attack. She also talked about how she disagreed with him sometimes when it came to tariffs, saying that she had urged him to delay some of the tariffs that he ultimately announced. And it goes on. There's a lot of other areas where she kind of talks about kind of disagreeing with him, but also ultimately her role is as a facilitator rather than, past White House chiefs that we've seen, notably people like John Kelly during the president's first administration, who at times tried to hold him back. She sees as her job trying to kind of shape what he does, but also not preventing him from doing what he wants to do.
Pause for a second. Long story short, Susie threw all of them under the bus. And I mean all of them. But yeah, in that article, and it's long, but I read it, she said that Donald Trump had an alcoholic personality. She was against his tariffs. She said in this interview, she was against his tariffs. She called out J.D. Vance. She said Pam Bondi basically messed up the Epstein files release. Like, it was basically like a confession moment from Real World. I don't know if you guys ever watch MTV's The Real World. It was kind of like that, where they get you in that one room and you start talking about how you really feel about people that are in the house that you're living with. The 7 strangers put in a house. And it felt like that. Like, I felt like what I was reading was not something I was supposed to know about, right? Like, things that would be kept behind the scenes. And people are asking, well, why would she do that? Well, one, she is denying that she said these things, but she's already been busted with the audio recording. And then 2, it's like I said before, it's a sinking ship. And I think she knows that too. Now, this woman also is very pro-Israel. She has connections to Israel. She has also been in the room with some of these conversations that Donald Trump has had with Benjamin Netanyahu. So don't think that she's like some do-gooder because she's spilling the tea. I think if anything, she's probably looking out for the rest of her career, or how she can kind of maybe, I don't know, get off this boat too before it sinks. But they all see what's really coming. It's a sinking ship. Let's continue on a little bit more here.
Very notable quote as well that stuck out to me, just given the context of what's very much in the news right now, is Venezuela. She admitted publicly that one of the goals of this administration and the president is actually to see regime change in Venezuela and oust Nicolas Maduro. I should note that is not what the White House line has been on this. The White House line has been that this is all about trying to crack down on narco terrorists and illegal drug trafficking. She essentially said this on Venezuela. She said, quote, "He wants to keep on blowing boats up until Maduro cries uncle. And people way smarter than me on that say that he will." Again, a major contradiction in what we've heard from the White House on all of this. And the last thing I just want to quickly point you to.
And that's foreign intel to say what he's going to do in the future, that he's going to continue to blow up those boats, right? The fishermen boats in the Caribbean. So this woman basically told everything. And I really do feel like you don't do something like that unless you're trying to get off the boat. You're trying to get off of this ship because you know what's coming.
There's a lot in this. I do encourage our audience to actually go and read these very lengthy and detailed articles from Vanity Fair. But she talked about retribution, and she said that she had some sort of agreement with the president that she didn't want him to be focused on score settling, that she was going to give him 90 days and then he kind of had to move on from it. But she also acknowledged that some of the recent indictments we've seen against some of the president's political foes, people like the former FBI director James Comey or the New York Attorney General Letitia James, both people who we've seen this Trump administration now bring indictments against. She admitted that, yeah, that kind of is political. She said the Letitia James indictment specifically, she said that one you could call retribution. And so incredible stuff in here from Wiles, who, again, one of the most powerful people, if not the most powerful person in this White House, apart from Trump, being very, very candid in this interview, Kate.
A lot more to come.
Yeah, a lot more to come. So let me show you what Susie said, because of course this morning, this article dropped early in the morning. And so she already put out a statement. The article published early this morning is a disingenuously framed hit piece on me and the finest president, White House staff, and cabinet in history. Okay. Significant context was disregarded, and much of what I and others said about the team and the president was left out of the story. I assume after reading it that this was done to paint an overwhelmingly chaotic and negative narrative about the president and our team. The truth is that the Trump White House has already accomplished more in 11 months than any other president has accomplished in 8 years. And that is due to the unmatched leadership and vision of President Trump, for whom I have been honored to work for the better part of the decade. So that's her statement. She says it's not true, but then she got outed because here's the thing. The journalist who did the interview, his name is Chris Whipple. Now, don't get me wrong. Chris Whipple is, a strong vote blue, no matter who, will not criticize the Democratic Party. Got to put that out there. At the same time, where Susie messed up is that I guess she totally forgot that she was recorded. It is not uncommon sometimes for journalists to record you when they are interviewing you, so that way they can just go back on their own time and play the tape and write the article. So now they do have to tell you, that you're being recorded, get your permission, etc. But I want you to hear what they said earlier today. And this is Brian Stelter, who somehow weaseled his way back onto CNN for this discussion. But he's talking about why it's not a hit piece because of how strict Vanity Fair can be. Listen to this.
Not that she thought she was not on the record, because she knows the whole time Chris Whipple is an author who writes for Vanity Fair. So there's no excuse. But maybe it's one of the situations where you're talking for hours, you're talking in a really casual way, maybe you forget the tape recorder is rolling. I'm wondering if that's the best way to explain some of this material, because it is so honest and all on the record.
But she is a deeply savvy operator. This
Very
is someone
savvy.
who has
Right.
been around politics for a really long time.
Right.
And you would think that she's someone that knows. At one point in the article, they reference her doing her laundry while she's talking about the divides of the MAGA movement or whatever.
Right.
And you would think even in that
Even
context,
then, yeah.
she would understand. And particularly given the this administration's approach to the media.
Right.
All right.
Not that she thought she was not on the record.
Yeah, and I know because I've been interviewed. I've been doing interviews from journalists for my documentary, and first thing they ask is, "Do I have your permission to record this so that I can go?" But like they tell you, that you're being recorded. And I don't know how long this interview took, but it's a series of interviews. So I could imagine this probably took a long time. But Susie just basically was really embarrassed. She embarrassed the hell out of herself to put out that statement. And then, of course, Chris Whipple goes, "Okay, here's the recording." Here's the audio recording of you saying these things. So it's a sinking ship. People are coming after Trump from all different sides now, including those that are a part of his administration. It's wild. It's crazy. JD Vance even said earlier at a press conference today, he's like, "I guess I shouldn't do any more interviews with Vanity Fair or with corporate media." Right? So look, sinking ship. And I would say that interview that Susie had with Vanity Fair, that basically just put the stamp on the envelope. It was signed, sealed, and delivered. It's not just the comment about Rob Reiner. That's just one little blip on the radar. It's a number of things. And when you add all those things together, you just have one big chaotic equation that nobody wants to solve. It's a mess. It's a mess. Let's go to some of the comments, ladies and gents, and then we'll get on to the next story here. Thank you so much for the super chat, Mountain. Not all the bankers, but it is always bankers' wars. Thank you, Cosmic. All people and people of color need to stop throwing Black America under the bus. Rogue cops are behind these lynchings. Thank you, Brad. Trump pulled the Seinfeld third person. Jimmy can jump with his, he was a deranged person as far as Trump is concerned. Is this the Trump double? It is weird how he talked about himself in third person. Thank you, William. Betrayed U.S. supports genocide. I still love him. Wow. Betrayed us, supports genocide. I still love him. Wow. Thank you, Mountain. 1, first, admit there is a problem. 2, identify the problem. 3, plan potential solution. 4, evaluate these solutions. Is it worth the efforts to change course directions? Vote out nepotism. All right. And thank you for the super sticker, Mountain. And thank you for this one. Thanks for your investigative reporting. Bless up. You are welcome. Let's get the comment on Rockfin and we'll keep it moving and grooving. All right. Thank you for the tip, Roger. Herald Square bomber Shahawar. I already saw that. Yeah, I saw that. Sorry. Whoopsie. Yeah, I got that one. Maybe it's this one. Thank you. Turns out he didn't have to test shooting someone on Fifth Avenue thinking that he would not lose support. Apparently, it has to be someone else who is killed, in this case, stabbed for him to lose support. Yeah, that's crazy. I still remember when Trump said that. Okay, speaking of Trump, now we got to move on to somebody else who, oh my God, it's already happening. If you guys haven't done so, smash that like button. Thank you. Let's keep it going, folks. Okay. 2028 will be here before you know it, ladies and gentlemen, and it has been announced. It is very apparent now. Kamala Harris is going to run for president again. The message has already been put out there, and she recently had a speech at the DNC event that makes it very apparent that Kamala will be back again. Axios got the big scoop. Harris is stepping towards another White House run. Oh boy. Here we go. Kamala Harris isn't planning to go gentle into the good night. This week, the former vice president made clear to potential 2028 rivals that she's working to keep another White House campaign viable, despite worries from party leaders and donors that she can't win. Harris remains at or near the top of most 2028 Democratic primary polls. She also has strong support among Black voters, the most critical voting bloc in the most recent Democratic presidential primaries. Okay, let me chime in here for just a second. I don't know how to say this, but I'm just going to say it like this. That would be a third presidential run for Kamala Harris. Maybe she's thinking third time's the charm. I don't know. But I do not think that Kamala Harris should run for president again. I just don't. I remember when Kamala Harris ran for president in 2020 in the Democrat primary. And I remember she had this famous, comment because she said that little girl was me to Joe Biden about his previous comments and feelings about busing. And she kind of took off for a short moment. And then that moment was crushed when Tulsi Gabbard revealed her record on criminal justice, marijuana, etc. That was it for Kamala. That was 2020. Some people don't even know that. Some people who were supporting Kamala Harris in 2024 didn't know that she ran for president in 2020. Then comes 2024. Joe Biden insists on running for re-election. That was dumb as hell. He stayed in basically until pretty much the last minute. Kamala Harris is then selected as the nominee. There was no Democrat primary. I said back then that was a bad idea. There were people running against Biden, and they wanted a chance to have a debate. That never happened. So Kamala was selected, and that's how she became the nominee. This time around, she's not going to be able to skip the primary. This time around, she's going to have to go to the primary again, just like she did in 2020. And I don't think she can make it out of the primary. I really don't. And I said this time and time again. I said that in 2024. The best chance that Kamala Harris had to become president would have been for Joe Biden to resign and hand it over to her. She's just not a strong candidate. And I've been saying this for years, but people I feel like they just want to make someone happen just because. And then some people are like, I want her to win because she's Black. You can't, you don't, there's no other Black people that you think wouldn't be better at that job. That just kills me. It drives me crazy. So she is poised to do this again. And it even says here, after lying low for the first part of this year and then embarking on a 2024 focused book tour, Harris made several moves this week that many Democrats see as the beginnings of a 2028 campaign. Here's something to note. Her book tour expanded. So people need to know this. She has more stops in 2026 in South Carolina and cities with many Black voters, including Detroit, Jackson, Mississippi, Memphis, Tennessee, and Montgomery, Alabama. And she appeared before the Democratic National Committee. Let's go ahead and get into that, because this is the part that I think people need to pay attention to. So before we start here, I want to say this. Kamala Harris has been listening to independent media. Kamala Harris, when you hear her speak at this DNC winter meeting, you are going to hear a different person. It's almost as if she took all of our words in independent media that have been calling out the Democrats and the Republicans, and she decided to say all of these things at this DNC winter meeting. And I'm going to go ahead and give people the warning right now. Do not be surprised if come 2028, many of these candidates are going to run on a populist message. They are listening to independent media. They may not come onto these shows, but that doesn't mean that they're not watching, that they don't have staffers that aren't watching. They know what we're saying. And what they are going to do is they're going to take the issues that they hear us talking about. They're going to run on this populist message because they know that this is what people want. But as long as they are attached to big money interests, you know that they're not going to fulfill it. And that's the warning I want to give to people. Listen to what she says here. Watch.
The American people sent a message. They want leaders who fight for affordability, for health care, for the right of people to participate in their democracy. Americans want leaders who fight for them. And that is what we will continue to do in 2026. As we compete in every state, in every district, and every level of government. And obviously, we must focus on the midterms. But Democrats, we must also have a clear vision for what comes after the midterms and then after Trump. We need to answer the question, what comes next for our party and our democracy? And in so doing, we must be honest that for so many, the American dream has become more of a myth than a reality.
Here it comes. What I tell you, right? So now she's going to focus on affordability, which should have been the message in 2024. It should have been affordability. Not sending weapons to Israel is going to be a big one. And that's another thing. Guys, pay attention. There's going to be a number of candidates that run in 2028 that's going to say, hey, I don't take any money from AIPAC. But you're going to have to look deeper. AIPAC is already doing these little tricks where they're funding candidates in a different way, and they're doing it through these other PACs. Remember, that was one of the things I covered a couple of weeks ago. Then also, but that's why you guys got me to dig through those kind of things, right? And then also, there's still J Street. There's still Koofy, right? So you got to pay attention to all these things because they know now the message that people want to hear. So don't be surprised if a lot of these people run on that message, even though they don't plan to follow it.
Whether it's the cost of food, energy, health care, transportation, or housing, America is facing an affordability crisis, a crisis that we are witnessing is fueling cynicism, fear, frustration, and a lack of confidence in our systems. At the same time, AI has started to displace jobs, reshape the future of work, and cause Americans across the country to fear being left behind. Meanwhile, social media, which once promised us to make us feel more connected, is increasingly making us feel more isolated and divided. And all of this is happening against the backdrop of a political system that appears to not only be fractured, but broken.
Pay attention to the comment about social media. This is something I think Democrats and Republicans are going to run on, that they need to crack down on social media. Remember, both parties support censorship, just on different issues. So pay attention to that.
Both parties have failed to hold the public's trust. Government is viewed as fundamentally unable to meet the needs of its people.
Notice how now she says both parties, and she's not just focusing on Donald Trump and the Republican Party. So they've been listening. They've been listening. But here's the thing. If you were serious about fighting against both parties, you would run outside of that system, because here's the thing. Kamala Harris has enough name recognition and popularity at this point that she can run outside the Democratic Party. She really could. You ain't got to like her, but everybody knows who she is now, if you didn't before. So she could really do that, right? So pay attention to this.
In these and in so many other ways, the people feel that the very institutions that were designed to support them have failed them. And they are not wrong. We must see what is happening. People are done with the status quo, and they're ready to break things to force change.
Oh, no. Because see, now she's talking about status quo, right? Didn't we say this in 2024? We're tired of this. Haven't we been saying this since Bernie, like 2016? We're tired of the status quo. Kamala Harris is the epitome of the status quo. So is Donald Trump. That's why a lot of people stayed home. That's why a lot of people stayed home. I voted third party, but look at the numbers. Look at all the people who didn't come out. So now she sees it. This is her pre-campaign speech. I really do believe it.
And so, real talk, right? So in comes Donald Trump, casting himself as the change agent, but with empty promises to the American people. Under his leadership, we all know prices are up, inflation is up, unemployment is up, healthcare costs for millions of Americans are about to double. We all know that in the midst of all this, the truth and reality of the moment, that just a few days ago, he said the economy was, I had to count the pluses, they're 5. A plus, 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 plus. That's what he said when asked, rate the economy. A plus, 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 plus. There is nothing A plus about any of this. But real talk, we must be candid and clear. Donald Trump is not the only source of our problems. He and the rise of the MAGA movement, I believe, are a symptom of a failed system that is the result of years of outsourcing and offshoring, financial deregulation, growing income inequality.
She is definitely been listening to independent media. Those words there, Donald Trump is a symptom of the system. She's definitely been listening to independent media. Now, when she ran in 2024, she not dare call out the Democratic Party and say where the Democratic Party went wrong. She not dare call these things out because Biden was just as corrupt. Biden starting a genocide. Trump continuing the genocide. But it was really important to many people that Kamala Harris distance herself from Joe Biden and show people how she would be different. She's saying all these things now, but the reality is, as long as she's attached to the big money interest, she's not going to change anything either. That's the catch. The time for her to have done this was 2024. She's one of them, but she won't be alone. Gavin Newsom is probably going to catch on to this at some point and start saying the same thing. Although he just said, I don't think billionaires should go away, but they are all going to jump on board with this. And I personally don't believe that we don't need repeats. Say it with me, honey buns. No more repeats. No Pete Buttigieg. He ran in 2020 as well. No Pete, no Elizabeth Warren, no Kamala Harris. If you ran for president already, don't run again. Just don't. People need new energy. They need people who are not corrupted by Wall Street. They need people not corrupted by the military industrial complex. People need something new. And you know what? People need someone who didn't go to Harvard, Yale, Stanford, didn't go to these Ivies, people who came from something that was more working class. Now, some said that was Joe Biden, but Joe Biden been in politics for years before then. And he was always an asshole. You know, you can go back and look at the other videos and see how he talked about, especially even the Black community when advocating for the crime bill. So I personally don't think that Kamala Harris should run for president again, but she's going to. And it's just one of those things. It's like, I feel like she feels like it's owed to her. I really do. I feel like this was promised to her or something at some point during her career. We'll make it happen for you. And I think what was supposed to happen is that Biden was supposed to resign and then pass the baton to her. But then Biden didn't want to do that because he's an asshole. That's just how he is. And so she's still trying to make this happen in some way, shape, or form. Ay.
A broken campaign finance system and endless partisan gridlock, all contributing to how we got here today. So as we plan for what comes after this administration, we cannot afford to be nostalgic for what was in fact a flawed status quo and a system that failed so many.
Yeah, I mean, it's not flawed. That is the system. The system is not broken. It's working exactly the way it is designed to work. It's supposed to help those who have money, those who have resources, and it's not supposed to help those who don't. You know, it's not rocket science. So she's preparing. That's what this speech is really about. She's preparing for that. But you can always see their heart when you see who their donors are. And that's really what it comes down to. The DNC, I think, is getting ready to encourage Kamala Harris to go for it. I think it's been signed, sealed, delivered. I think they're all in on it. Do you guys think Kamala Harris is going to change her position on Israel? Because I sure as hell don't. Kamala Harris still can't even say at her book tours, like to the people protesting still now at her book tours, telling her, you did not speak up for the Palestinian people. You wouldn't refuse to withhold weapons to Israel. These things don't go away. So you can't stand up there and point your fingers at people for not supporting you when they made demands of you and you refuse to meet those demands. And now she's saying, well, the status quo, it's broken and we can't do the status quo. It was wrong. This was wrong. Da 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 da. But I think for many, it's going to be too late. Too many people have died. And don't get me wrong, I don't think Trump will do well either. We can go to the next part, Eric. I don't think Trump is going to, even if he's trying to do this third term thing or whatever. That's insane. It's crazy. Trump need to go to bed. Trump need to go have a nightcap and go to bed. That's what he need to do. Okay. No more repeats. No more Clintons. No more Bushes. No more repeats. Can we do that? Thanks. All right. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents, and then we'll get to the next story. Thank you, Sparky. I don't think it was a good idea for Candace to let them know what she knew. Well, we're about to get into that. Penelope said, my whole family unsubbed from Candace. Yo, the chat was wild. I'll get into it. Like, people were like, I'm out of here. I'm out. Da, da, da. Tia said, they're becoming better liars, so don't listen to their words. Stick to your litmus test and high standards. Thank you, Sparky. F Israel and their false flags. Thank you, Real Friday. Cali Democrats love Harris. I am not impressed by her or Newsom. Reparations over everything. Thank you, Echo Pup. She's going to lose again and write another book. I can see it now. Echo Pup has been a member for 13 months. Shout out to Echo. Thank you, Libertarian Social Democrat. Is it me, but when cops, certain low-level ex-military are living a lavish life, something is fishy. Sabby, please investigate. Yeah, that is fishy. Thank you, Sparky. Nowadays, tragedies like at Bondi Beach and other places recently should automatically be considered false flags until proven otherwise. It may reduce the amount of false flags used. I agree with you. And shout out to Nika for the super sticker. Thank you, Chip. Does Kamala not realize she was vice president of the United States for 4 years? Was she drunk on Chardonnay that whole time? Thank you, Nika. Thanks for exposing the truth. You're welcome. And thank you, Wasim. The Simpsons are known for their predictions. Lisa Simpson becomes president in the future where the USA is dead broke because of President Trump before his first term. Kamala in the future. Interesting. We shall see. Let's get that comment. The Rumble Rant. Yeah. Thank you, Perfect Blackness. Interesting name. Hey, Sabby, did you get my email regarding settlers openly taking land from Palestinians, the Israeli government arming them, and the legalizing previously stolen land? I was shocked that PBS even aired it. I did see it. Last time I played something from PBS on here, it was they did the copyright. So I'll try to see if I can find it if somebody else talked about it. Because PBS can be funny like that. I don't get it. Those bums. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to our final story. Again, the theme tonight is signed, sealed, delivered. And people were asking for this meeting with Candace Owens and Erika Kirk. And it was signed, sealed, and delivered. And now we know what took place during that meeting. I got to say this right off the bat. I looked at the live chat for the very first time while Candace was discussing what took place at that meeting. And yeah, some people were not happy with the way that things went. We're going to get into all of that. Now, of course, it all started out with this announcement from Erika Kirk where she said, Candace Owens and I are meeting for a private in-person discussion on Monday, December 15th. Candace and I have agreed that public discussions, live streams, and tweets are on hold until after this meeting. I look forward to a productive conversation. Thank you. Yeah. Then it was interesting. This whole thing about productive conversation. Because people were tracking this like for reals. Okay. Project Constitution was tracking what they believed to be Erika's private jet. So I guess Turning Point has a private jet. Like, Jesus Christ. And this was cracking me up. They were checking to see when that plane was going to land in Nashville and when it was going to depart from Nashville, so they would know whether or not this conversation had ended. So they even picked up a scheduled departure time. They got the scheduled arrival and estimated departure listed for 4:45 p.m. That's what that is for those who don't know. It's military time. But it was just interesting. People were like, okay. And I think people were waiting to see if Candace was going to go live and have a stream about what took place during that same day, maybe later on that evening. Erika Kirk put out this statement, had a very productive conversation with Candace, more to come from both of us. Looking forward to AmFest this week. Time to get back to work. And people saw this and were like, what does she mean, productive conversation? Right? Candace echoed this sentiment. Erika and I had an extremely productive, there's that word again, 4.5-hour meeting that I think we both feel should have taken place a lot earlier than it did. We agreed much more than I had anticipated. Of course, we also disagreed on various points and people as well. Most importantly, we were able to share intel and clarify intent. I will, of course, have a full rundown for you all tomorrow as I am currently exhausted, but I wanted to quickly let you guys know absolutely nothing was held back, and the immediate result was that tensions were thawed. So some people saw that the other day, and they said, uh-oh, what does this mean? Right? So there's a poll that is linked to my live chat. Make sure you answer that about who you think this conversation actually benefited. And I'll tell you who I think it benefited in the end. So people were kind of waiting around to see, okay, are we going to hear from her? Is she going to tell us, like, what happened? In the meantime, Tim Pool decided to take it upon himself, and he decided to make a quite alarming statement about security. He's basically claiming that this is all for show and that Candace has the same security as Turning Point USA. Listen to this.
Okay, I'll say things that I probably shouldn't say, but I'm going to say, because I always get super heated on this. Candace Owens has the same security team as Turning Point and Charlie Kirk did. She's lying. She has the same security people. I've been digging into this. I've been meeting with people and talking with them, and I shouldn't say too much because there's more that's going to be coming out soon, because rest assured, people are filing legal paperwork against her. Candace has the same security team, or has used the same security companies and the same security personnel as Charlie and Erika did. So when she comes out and is questioning them, she is lying outright. Now, I've invited many of these people to come on. We'll see what happens. We'll see when they can. The issue is, the moment Candace goes on her show to millions of people and lies, litigation begins. And what happens when litigation begins? People don't do interviews about it. She is exploiting this, and she knows she is, to keep people wrapped up in this insanity. Okay,
Okay, so I was a little bit confused when I saw this, because it was just a week ago that Tim Pool said that she doesn't even have security. She has like this unprotected wall, and his words, not mine, one fat guy. So which is it? She has security or she doesn't? Now he's saying she has the same security as Turning Point USA. So Candace did respond to that. You guys have got to see this. It gets kind of nasty. Apparently, Tim Cast is telling his audience that Charlie Kirk's security team is and was the same as my security team. This is complete and utter fiction. Charlie and I never employed the same security company, literally ever. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Of course, Tim Pool did respond. Be specific, Candace. Make sure you're very clear. You never had the same security people working for you that Charlie also used? ? This is where it gets pretty tense. I was clear, bitch. I said that Charlie and I never used the same security people. So your point that I was being a hypocrite by critiquing their actions that day is complete and utter trash. In fact, I regularly critiqued Charlie on his security team, and I'm sure I could dig up a text message or two to that effect. This is where we're at now, folks. This is where we're at now. So it's getting heated. I also saw there was an article published by the New York Post that was putting out smears against Candace earlier today. So it's coming all in, right? There's a lot of attacks that are going on. Now, here's the thing. They made an agreement not to have a live stream, not to discuss this matter while they were meeting, while Erika and Candace were meeting. But Turning Point USA went live and talked about the issue. Listen to some of this.
Blake, happy Monday.
Is it?
Yeah, well,
Happy we got to Monday.
A lot of stuff went down this weekend, not the least of which, I just want to call out the elephant in the room. We had invited Candace Owens to be a part of a live stream today on this show, later today after our live show. She, of course, declined to show up in person. And then over the weekend, Erika Kirk announced that she's going to be meeting privately. And so with her. And so
sometime today.
And so per that tweet, she said basically all live streams, public discussions, and tweets are on hold until after this meeting.
We'll see what unfolds.
So we will see what unfolds. We are prepped, ready, either way. So that's basically where we're going to leave that discussion.
But they don't leave it.
You know, we're actually going to have Paramount Tactical, Gary Melton, on the show at the halfway point in this hour. We're going to just talk about some of the.
We're going to have two different guests, I believe. Just talking about
Viva Fry is going to come on and talk about why he believes Tyler is the shooter. He's going to go through some of the evidence, and he's also going to talk about his own little sort of spats and squabbles on social media. And then we are gonna, like I said, Gary Melton from Paramount Tactical, ballistics expert. He's also visited the campus of UVU since and retraced the steps of Tyler Robinson. All that and more will happen today. And then we're going to get into how Charlie was kind of a modern day It's a Wonderful Life. All right, without further ado.
So they brought that guy on. So it was really weird. Again, like I thought there wasn't supposed to be conversations about that the same day that Candace and Erika were meeting. And people say, well, maybe it was just Erika and Candace not having conversation. I don't know. Erika said TPUSA is fam. I mean, that's the fam. I thought it wasn't supposed to be discussed. I thought that was the point of it. So I thought that was kind of sneaky for them to do. Now, going into this, after that meeting happened, there were a lot of people on social media asking if Candace Owens was alive. I kid you not. They were like, is she alive? No one has heard from her. We're watching the plane to see if Erika actually landed. Like, this is what was happening the other night. So she did put out a message here on, I think this was IG.
4.5 hours later, I'm alive. I'm alive. I'm totally fine. And I am sorry. I was going to do a show for you guys this evening, but I am truly exhausted. Very productive conversation. I asked every single question. I mean, from Egyptian planes to Turning Point USA Faith. And I was very surprised by some of the answers that I got. And I think they were also very surprised when I shared certain intel. This probably should have happened a very long time ago, but I wanted to let you guys know that I am alive, and I will have the full rundown for you guys tomorrow of what transpired. And yeah, I think it was definitely a very big step in the right direction. So I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Then this made some people wonder, what was this step in the right direction that she was referring to? So she did go live, and I do want to show you guys what was discussed. Let's just go back here. I do want to say, first and foremost, pull this here. Some people are not happy. Some people are not happy with what was said. And we're going to talk about some of it on here. Let me come out of here. Eric, can we get rid of the live chat on that video. Do we need to refresh it? Oh, I'll do it. Sorry. Okay. Okay, there we go. Thank you. Some people were not happy. Getting into this, I have to say, something was off. Watching this, at least this part of the live stream where she talks about what was discussed, it almost seemed like Candace came across as somewhat nervous. It didn't seem like, I don't know, something just felt off. Let's get into it. I'll show you guys so you can see it for yourself here. Let me just jump forward a little bit here. Let's go ahead and bring this in.
Their answer for that was, hey, that was a really crazy time. A new system had to be put into place. And by no means did Erika give any person the authority to go out and say that the Catholicism thing was a lie. It kind of turned into this big thing. Whatever. Okay, that kind of obviously was not the meat of the reason that we wanted to sit down. I will say I was immediately refreshed by the fact that one of the first things that Erika did was she owned the lies, or rather, I guess they would cage it as miscommunications that were coming from various people at the company. Like, look, this is a company with 650 people that are employed. Everybody at this time is exceedingly emotional, and they are communicating. And no matter what somebody says on Twitter, they assume that this communication has come down from management, and that's not always a circumstance. But they owned right away, which felt great, that if you guys recall, Erika sat down with Glenn Beck. I actually missed this portion because I didn't get to watch the interview in its entirety, and we were pulling clips because a lot was coming out very quickly. But there was a portion that was going around that was viral, and it was Erika saying that she had Charlie's phone and that Charlie never texted anybody the night before saying that he thought that they were going to kill him. And that obviously reflected poorly on me because I was the one who said that he did, in fact, text multiple people the night before. And then I went on Jimmy Dore on Friday, Jimmy Dore's show, and I clarified. I said, Andrew Colvett told me specifically that he was one of the people that received this text message. So I got that first person. I didn't get that from a source. I got that directly from Andrew Colvett. And then somebody who had access to Dan Flood's communications said that Dan Flood similarly received a text message. They owned that right away and explained. Erika said that she has Charlie's phone. She's looking at his iMessages. And it turns out that he, like everybody else, communicates on Signal. He communicates on Telegram. And that when she heard me say that, they then went and looked. And yes, that what I said was true. Andrew Colvett received a message the night before, and Dan Flood received a message the night before. Now, they asked me if I had actually like a concrete a copy of what Dan Flood got the night before. And I said, no. If somebody told me what it said, which was almost exactly what Andrew said, which is they're going to kill me. Andrew did not know who they were, that he was referring to were, but they clarified that the message that Dan Flood received said the left is going to kill me. So I can't confirm that one way or the other. I have to trust them on that because I did not see that concrete message. I was told that it said they.
We're going to pause right here. Yeah. So here's the thing, right? This text message that happened that said that, or Charlie saying that they were going to kill him or whatever. I've used Signal before in the past as well. I find it very strange that Andrew Colvett knew that, but Charlie didn't tell his wife, Erika, that. Like, never once ever mentioned his concern about. What was weird to me with this stream here is that it seemed like Candace was willing to trust what Erika said. And of course, some of the people that came with Erika, because Erika wasn't by herself and Candace wasn't by herself. Like, she had her team, Erika had her team. It seemed like she was willing to trust what they said. And I think it's important to note that 99.9% of the time, if it comes down to someone protecting their business, or doing the moral right thing, 99.9% of the time, they're going to protect the business. So what was weird to me, I can't speak for everybody else, but what was weird to me is that she was willing to trust what they said. Because to me, that's just weird. That's just weird. That he would say this to Andrew, but he wouldn't say it to his wife. So I don't trust the organization. I don't think anybody should. I'm skeptical about every damn body. I'll tell you guys. I don't trust the organization. These people are going to protect their brand. Erika is going to protect Turning Point USA. She's now the CEO. Andrew Colvin and all of them are going to protect that organization and that brand. That's what they're getting paid to do. That's their bread and butter. They're going to protect it. Hell, these people flying on private jets. I'm over here like, what the fuck? Because we don't have it like that on the left. I'll tell you that. I'll be very upfront with you. We ain't flying on no private jets. Okay? I take Amtrak to New York. When I go to New York, I take the train. I'm not bougie at all. I'll just keep it real. We do not have it like that. So if they have private jets, then these people have a lot of money. These organizations have a lot of money. They are always going to protect the business. Let's continue on.
Now, obviously, we discussed the moment, and I'm laughing here because you TikTokers are actually out of control. You guys are going to be the reason that Israel gets TikTok, because you guys are acting a fool all the time. And the videos were so hilarious of you guys mocking the Bari Weiss interview. It's great. It's good to laugh at ourselves. And Bari Weiss is always worth laughing at. But I was sort of like, hey, I felt name checked by the podcaster, Candace Owens, this obvious setup, and then asking me to stop. And it's interesting to hear Erika say that the reason she didn't ask me to stop in the beginning, because she was actually learning things from the show. She was actually learning things, and that I think she similarly felt that Bari Weiss was trying to create a moment. Obviously, it's who Bari Weiss is. It's the Zionist lobby. She's trying to right perceived wrongs because I'm against her side. That does not surprise me. That's kind of why Bari Weiss exists. That's the reason they put her at CBS, is because she's just committed to stacking the audience with people that are going to present the pro-Israel cause and talk about anti-Semitism and talk about like crime being on the rise. It's kind of an embarrassment, but I actually do accept that. And I should also clarify that Bari Weiss obviously picked those questions. They were not random, like I told you. It wasn't like people were coming to the mic and it was an open mic and they didn't know what they were going to get. It was all very much planned by Bari. But Erika said that she knew the general idea, like they were going to mention me and mention the conspiracies, but she was not given that specific, the podcaster, Candace Owens, question. So.
Yeah, man. She sounds nervous to me. So here's the thing. A lot of times when these people, when they have these interviews, people like Erika Kirk, etc. Sorry, I thought I was going to sneeze. A lot of times they already have the questions ahead of time. It's no different from like Kamala and a lot of them, like they'll already have the questions ahead of time. So she said that Erika told her that she knew the general things, but she knew that Candace's name would be mentioned, she would be discussed, but she didn't know that Bari Weiss was going to ask that question that way, the podcaster Candace Owens. But come on. So Erika knew, knowing Bari Weiss is very messy. Very messy. Erika knew that Candace was going to come up. So if she knew that Candace was going to come up, which according to Candace, she told her that, what else did she think Bari Weiss was going to ask her about Candace? What else did she think was going to come from that? Of course, she was going to ask her about what Candace is saying on her podcast about it. So to me, it's just, I don't know, man. The way that this kind of came across, especially right here in the beginning, I think the reason why some people are upset is because they're like, it seems like she's trying to defend or protect Erika, but more so believe her. And I just don't believe these motherfuckers. Like, I'm over here like, I don't trust none of I just don't believe it. I don't believe. Because like I said, people are going to protect their business. They're going to protect their brand at all costs. They don't give a damn. And Erika, listen, this is someone who she was in beauty pageants. You guys know like how much like people who have been in the pageant industry, how much they're trained and how much they practice to walk across that stage and to say things in such a way that will help them win like an award. People think the pageant business is just someone putting on a dress or a bathing suit and just strutting across the stage. No. There's years of practice that go into that. And you have to be able to convince a panel of judges, right? I mean, Erika was also on a reality show. She's been in music videos. She's done a little bit of modeling. Like these people, I don't think Erika Kirk is stupid. I think this Erika Kirk is very smart. So let's go on.
I think that's fair to clear that up. Now, I did not at all recant any of my suspicions, and I understand people disagree with me about particular people at Turning Point USA. I communicated what I communicated in front of the whole world. My skin crawled after I spoke to Terrell Farnsworth, the person who took the cameras down. He lied to me several times. I explained to them, which felt good to have that direct communication, how Terrell lied multiple times, and that I did not understand why he was there that day. They echoed what he said. They defended what he said, that they were trying something new that day, that they typically live stream, which is what Terrell said. They typically live stream. And I said, every college event. Well, they said, well, yeah, they live stream the events that are tour stops, but they don't live stream like the outside prove me wrong type events. And that was something that was new and it required Terrell. And I said, even if that was all real, if that was all true, I still didn't feel good about the conversation that I had with Terrell. And I can't ignore my gut about the many little lies that he told. I thought the video he recorded was weird. I know he comes from a very powerful family. I personally do not trust him. And I obviously do not like the fact that I said, Tyler Boyer lied about this thing and came up with an excuse and said, well, Terrell was asked to take the camera down. That's the reason, he said on Twitter, because the police wanted him to take it down and secure the footage. And I said, I know that's not true. And they said, well, after all of that, after he took the cameras down, there was a police officer or Fed, whoever it was, that spoke to him and asked him to secure the footage. Well, that makes sense, but it's not a reason for why he took it down immediately. It makes sense that as you're investigating, you're going to say, who's got the footage? Let's lock it down. But it didn't make sense to me that Tyler Boyer lied about it. And I don't trust Tyler Boyer. And that is never going to change. Similarly with Rob McCoy, he makes my skin crawl. I can't explain it. I look at him and he's a bad person and nobody can make me feel one way or the other about that. I was surprised to learn, and this kind of gets into, I guess, us not knowing the inner workings at Turning Point USA, that Rob McCoy actually does not work with Turning Point USA in any capacity whatsoever. And so him communicating as he has done, like, I'm the pastor, I'm this, I'm that, it's just not real. Like, that is not real. And we should know that that's not real. And when he says that, call him out on that separately from Turning Point USA. I was operating under the assumption that he worked for Turning Point USA. And I said, if obviously that's wrong, I'm happy to correct that. But also, what were we to assume when he hit the stage at the memorial and said, I'm America's pastor, and then had the Wikipedia updated and said, well, I'm assuming he had it updated because who else would do that he started Turning Point USA Faith. So I guess, to be clear, we were just wrong about that. And I will have a lot more to say about Rob McCoy and where I believe he fits into a lot of things. So I'm not letting up on that. Now, one piece of this where I was...
Pause here. I think Rob McCoy is even more suspicious. Angela said, yes, but Erika wasn't a pageant chick. She entered her first pageant and won. Yeah, that's even more suspect. I mean, it just... I know people that have been in the pageant business, and a lot of them started particularly young, and it's just to come out of nowhere. I mean, that makes it even worse. But these people were a part of the talent industry. They were in the entertainment talent industry, right? So that's just something to keep in mind. Let's continue on.
I still don't understand it. And the magic bullet. Okay. Now, we all recall what happened. I casually say on the show, hey, I saw the footage. There was no blood. And honestly, when I said it, I didn't process how big of a deal that was with the 30-06. Very quickly, what happens is Andrew Colvett whips up this tweet about what happened with the bullet, and he said he wanted to address all of the discussion that was being had about the online chatter. I'm obviously paraphrasing here. He says, I apologize, it's going to get graphic, but he spoke with the surgeon. The bullet should have gone through. The surgeon then explained that what he's typically seen on these wounds, and basically this was all a miracle. Charlie saved lives, even in death. And the internet clocked it, this miracle, the healthy bone. His bone was so healthy and the density was so impressive. Like, this is a quote, by the way. His bone was so healthy. I want to read it. This is allegedly from a surgeon. Quote, his bone was so healthy and the density was so impressive that he's like the man of steel. It should have gone through and through. It likely would have killed those standing behind him too. And we were just like, eeh. That kind of was like the beginning of the WTF, right? I feel like that was kind of the beginning of it. And immediately people in the comments responded to Andrew, and he said, this individual said, this post is so fake as it would violate HIPAA. Like, there's patient privacy. You can't just call up the surgeon. And then Andrew Colvett replies and says, rest assured, I would not have posted without full permission. Now, he said he spoke to the surgeon. And they confirmed that Andrew spoke to the surgeon, but that they did not know that he was going to write that tweet. They did not know that he called up the surgeon. So like, it very much came across to be like Andrew was just flying by the seat of his pants. I don't know. Like, he was just flying dark on me. And I was like,
so it's like, why believe Andrew Colvett now, right? So here's the other thing I want to point out. It seems like she's toned it down. It seems like her demeanor has toned down. Like, now she's, it seems her words are a little bit more softer than they were before. So we may never know everything that was said during that conversation between her and Erika. But I noticed a difference with this stream compared to some of the other ones where she was digging into the Charlie Kirk investigation. And I think other people noticed it as well. At first, like I said, she seemed a little nervous, but also her tone is subdued. Let me go on.
Like, that seems very strange to me, because why would a surgeon do that? Like, the first thing the surgeon should say is, I can't speak to you. I don't even know, in theory, Andrew wasn't even there when Charlie died. I don't even know why the surgeon even knows this guy, actually. Maybe he hung around after, but, Andrew was not one of the people that got into the hospital or anything like that. So this is quite literally the PR guy who's calling the surgeon. And so that just seems very inappropriate for a person to do, period. And I would say it was kind of the beginning, but that was what I got from that. Now, obviously, we discussed the security. I brought up Brian Harpole, this interview with Sean Ryan, and I think we can believe Turning Point when they say that they did not approve of this. They had no idea he was going on Sean Ryan. I think that's pretty clear. I don't believe he works there anymore. So that was kind of him just getting out there and perhaps trying to rescue his own reputation. And I think that only made his reputation worse, actually, because people rightfully sensed that he wasn't telling the truth in that interview, that he was being cagey, that he was saying things that didn't make any sense. Again, you constantly have these people that believe, like Brian Harpole, that with enough performance, he can sit down and you're just going to convince people that this is real. And this is just a different time. Like I said, these TikTokers are out of control. They will check you in 4 seconds. Okay.
So this is the same organization, Turning Point USA, that I reported on. One of their staffers, her name is Jeanette. She's also a part of city council. One of their staffers right now has a lawsuit against them for sexual harassment, which came from another employee, a male employee, and kidnapping of his 14-year-old girl, allegedly. This is why I say you cannot. I don't think anybody should be trusting the organization. Period. Just it should be no trust there. But this is the same organization. Are they talking about like this lawsuit? I mean, this is a pretty big deal. Somebody like sues you for kidnapping and sexual harassment.
Things that the biggest piece of this that I want to communicate, and that I did communicate to them, and I hope that they took me seriously on this, or rather that they take my strong advice on this. I said one of the reasons why I really want to sit down is because I want to walk out of here and feel confident saying to my audience, hey, like, there's stuff going on behind the scenes, but Tyler Robinson shot Charlie Kirk. Like, that more will come out, but you can take it from me that this is what happened. I was looking to achieve that because there's been a lot of signaling from various people, some people who are experts, some people who have been involved in cases, that there's obviously going to be stuff that the public does not have access to. And so it is at least plausible that they have seen very clear footage that we've been asking for of Tyler Robinson getting up there and taking the shot. Like, they have access to UVU camera. So I was hoping to hear that. And I said that I want to hear why people feel so confident at Turning Point USA that Tyler Robinson is the guy.
This is where some people crashed out. I did see, I mean, the chat moved really fast, but I did see in the chat this is where some people started to say, like, what do you mean you want them to prove that, you know, Tyler Robinson is the guy, is the shooter, or whatever. So some people didn't stick around for this next part, but apparently she did speak to Erika's lawyer, apparently also with this meeting. And I want you guys to listen to this. This is very telling.
And at this point, they elected to call the lawyer, like, you know, their lawyer who is involved in this case, one of the lawyers that's involved in this case. There's always a team of lawyers, especially for something like this. And what I got from the lawyer did not make me feel that Tyler Robinson shot Charlie Kirk. It did not make me feel confident that he didn't or did shoot Charlie Kirk. I was very surprised by this. He spoke a very long time. I asked, you know, can you share with me what it is? And I said, when you share this with me, I will not say what that thing is. If we want to protect the integrity of the case, I'm not going to, if you say we've got the footage of him taking a shot, I promise I won't say that to the audience, but I will communicate to them that you have something that is solid. And no, to the exact contrary, this guy effectively said, not effectively, he said that they have nothing but the affidavit.
So, to that point, that was one of the parts that I really wanted you guys to hear, the part about Tyler Robinson. So when Erika Kirk said that she's seen the evidence, she's seen the autopsy and everything, she said, like, it's him, he did it, Tyler Robinson did it. You know, when you speak like that, it can give people the impression that you have information that the rest of us have not seen. According to Candace at this meeting, she had the opportunity to speak to the lawyer, and all they have is the affidavit, which is the same thing that we saw. The video that we saw is the same video that they saw. So that being said, it makes it even more suspicious that Erika believes the FBI narrative. It's one thing if you got something else behind the scenes there that the rest of the public doesn't have, but you basically have the same thing that we had. You saw the same videos that we saw. You saw the same, you know, dude on the roof with no gun in his hand that we saw. So that is why I say I don't trust none of these motherfuckers. Because at the end of the day, you cannot sit there during an interview, which Erika has done multiple times, and say basically without a shadow of a doubt that you know for certain that this is the person who did this, or that this person did not have any assistance or whatever, whether it's intel, yada, yada. You cannot sit up there and say that you know this for certain, and you saw the same things that we saw. That makes no sense to me. That's why I said, you guys, this does not make any sense. So now that we know that they don't have anything else that we haven't already seen, does everybody see that the gig is up? Everybody get what's going on now? So why was Erika Kirk so willing to not even open her ear and listen to what could have happened, to other information? Why was she not willing to hear that? Why did she say to Barry Weiss, stop? Why did she give the evil googly eyes? Why did she say it's sick, and all these types of things? Why did she do that if she didn't have extra information? The gig is up. That's why I said again. So listen to this part.
Okay. So what we have seen is what they have. What is being discussed publicly, you are this whole like non-expert problem with like, well, you don't know. It's like what you read, his messages that don't have any dates on it, Tyler Robinson writing out everything in the clean alibi. That's what they have. And what he explained to me was that that's the affidavit stage. That's where it's at. And then what takes place now is the investigation is ongoing, right? So right now they're looking for more information. And once investigators, they could very well have obviously footage. And that is why they might feel that, oh, we're definitely gonna get this prosecution. But the reality is they don't actually share that information with the victim. They don't share that information with Erika. They don't, in this part of the process, they will not know what investigators have discovered. This is what the lawyer told me until May. Okay. They have not seen anything that you have not seen, is what I want you to know. So with that in mind, I'm sitting here going, why are you signaling? Why do I feel like the public's being gaslit on this? There's been nothing that's convincing. There are so many commentators who have gone out and said to you, it's overwhelming. The evidence is overwhelming. The text messages that don't have a date, that don't even sound real, that's overwhelming. That to me feels really fake and gay. I really do.
Yeah, she toned it down. Candace has toned it down. We all know how intel works now. We all know how these agencies like work. Like they're not always going to tell you everything. But what is weird, and I think what some people are pointing to is, why is she even trusting the narrative and all these types of things that they're saying now? Like I said, 99.9% of the time, if it comes down to protecting the business or protecting morality, most of the time, people are going to do what they can to protect the business, right? Erika is not going to put herself in a position in front of Candace, I guess, and also in front of her team, that is going to threaten Turning Point USA in any type of way. It's a little bit different for Candace, right? Because she's not a part of Turning Point USA. She has her show that she does from her space, and she doesn't have a whole like business organization that she's the CEO of, and a team and all these people that have salaries and all this type of stuff. I mean, yeah, she has like a team that works with her, but you get what I'm saying. She doesn't have like a business like Turning Point USA, where her mission is to build and grow. Erika made that very clear. She's like, we want to build, we want to grow. You can't build and grow if you have this dark cloud hanging over your organization. So it is Erika's job as the CEO to go out there and to put the organization on good footing and to make sure that the organization looks well, especially to donors and also to the public that they're trying to recruit. And you can't do that. You can't do that if people have these views coming out about your organization. One of the things Candace said at the very beginning of this live stream is that they weren't happy when Candace told people not to donate money to TP USA or to ask for a refund. That really pissed them off. Yeah, because that's money. Because now you're messing with their business. Like I said, follow the money. Follow the money.
You want to say that to every commentator that is out there trying to tell the public and insisting that if you say it enough times to become real, you're actually just being dishonest. And I offered that a more honest way to communicate would be to say, we think he's involved. We feel strongly. I've said that. I think he's involved. We are very hopeful that throughout this investigation, we are going to get that concrete thing. And that's where we're at right now. That's just the stage that we are at. That is not what we are getting from them. That is like, I just feel like that's really important to let you guys know, let the gaslighting stop. They have what you have. Okay. There is nothing else. They are in an investigative stage. Erika has been named as the victim. They will know more in this May hearing, which is the probable cause hearing. That's what the lawyer told me. It's probable cause hearing. And that's when they will see the evidence. That's when they get to present the evidence, why they are going to stand there before a judge and be like, yes, we need to move this forward. It's not just an affidavit. We're not pulling together scraps. We have concrete evidence.
But why didn't Erika say this already? Erika could have said this in a number of her interviews. If she didn't want to say it there, she could have explained this on the Charlie Kirk show, which they are now, all a part of. They could have explained this on the Charlie Kirk show as well. So why wasn't that? I mean, you can't say, well, they didn't want the public to know. Candace is talking about it right now. There were over 300,000 people watching Candace live. So the information is getting out there anyway. So why didn't Erika Kirk and the rest of them, Andrew Colvin and all of them, why didn't they say this a couple months ago or a week ago or 2 weeks ago? Why didn't they say it? Why are you just hearing about it now after this private meeting with Candace and Erika and Candace mentioned it on her live stream? Does everybody see what I'm talking about? Let's go back to the part about the money, because I want people to hear this part.
Can't Turning Point USA just answer basic questions. And I can tell you guys that yesterday for 4 hours and 30 minutes, there were no rules. They said you can ask us any question that you want, anything that's on your mind, which I appreciated. And some of you guys are thinking, who is they? Who is they? It's the Jews, obviously. Just kidding. It's Justin Strife. Justin Strife was in the room. It was just Justin Strife and Erika. George joined me just for the beginning portion of the conversation because he had that thing going on that I told you on the 15th all day. He was in a conference. And then I brought my cousin Mia, the one that has a really bad attitude. I just bring her there for vibes. I think it just confuses people. They're like, I don't understand what's this person doing here. And the reality is she's like always just listening to Cardi B music. But she's my cousin and I always have her around. And so that was it. She was kind of sitting a little bit away, but at the table, it was really just the four of us until George left. And I will be honest, I did not know what to expect going into the room. I did not know if they were going to be open. I didn't know what Erika's energy was going to be like, if it was going to be more of an argument, if there was going to be legal threats. You guys were telling me not to drink water, so I didn't drink water. Well, I brought my own water, but I didn't drink that water too. It was a lot. There's a lot going on, okay? And the conversation started with Justin Strife very sensibly saying, what are we looking to accomplish here? Like, what is the actual aim of this conversation? And he was pretty clear, and Erika was very clear, that they were sort of most upset with obviously a bit of a fever pitch, what I tweeted, that it was a God-forsaken company and people should not give money to it. And I have to own that. That's aggressive. That is actually aggressive in the retrospect. I was very frustrated. And I don't know, I felt like we weren't getting any answers and there were so many lies. And then I was getting attacked for asking all meaningful questions that was within their capacity to answer. And I told you, I definitely, my problem in life is that I can rise to anger very quickly. I shared with them that I really felt like I was under attack for telling the truth from the very beginning.
So this is what I was saying about, it seems like it's softened. The tone has changed, right? So right out the gate, they were not happy because she told people not to donate to them, to ask for a refund. She called out the business, right? So that affects money. This all goes back to money, right? So what I don't understand, like this part right here, what Candace goes, well, yeah, I have to admit that was a bit aggressive. Nah, I would own that shit. I wouldn't feel bad about that at all. Because I'm not going to, like, for me, if I tell you, do not donate to these people, do not give money to this, no, I mean that with every bit and every ounce of my body. I'm not going to come back to you and say, yeah, that was kind of aggressive. It was meant to be. This is the part, the way it started off was kind of weird. Like, you don't have to apologize, because it kind of sounds like an apology. You don't have to apologize for telling people not to donate to that business. So, like I said, we may never know everything that was said during that conversation. But the first thing that's mentioned is the money. And there you go. I also don't have a problem with people being aggressive, but that's just me. Sometimes you have to be aggressive, especially about certain issues. But if it's the one thing I would say not to apologize for or say, well, yeah, that's a little great. It's that. It's the money. Because I wouldn't have said that at all. Some people saw that and they were not happy. Like I'm telling you guys, can we see the chat now? I don't think we can now. Let's see.
Casually, when I mentioned the Catholicism.
One thing that was mentioned, she said Catholicism, because we're not gonna watch the whole thing. But one thing that was mentioned was the Catholicism part, where she did say that that Charlie was pursuing, looking into Catholicism, right? And that seemed to be confirmed. Now, she couldn't confirm whether or not he was converting, but she did say that, yes, he was interested in that. So that's interesting to note as well. But let's see, can we see is it gone? Because sometimes I know like you can and sometimes you can't. I see comments, but not the live chat. Okay, so maybe the live chat is disabled. Oh boy, the comments. Oh boy. The number one sign of manipulation is confusion. The truth is like a solid sound brick. Ned said, and I hate to say it, Candace, but you sound like a kid who just came out of the principal's office, is now casually shrugging and telling her friends outside it was no big deal. Maybe that's a good way to describe it. When I said she seemed kind of nervous, maybe it was kind of like this, like it's no big deal. It feels like it's no big deal. Oh boy. Oh boy. I don't know if I want to even look through. Adajar said, I can't believe she said absolutely nothing new and didn't even mention what Erika's response were in regards to their continuous shady attitudes at TPUSA. I tried to watch this episode with an open mind. I truly did. I can't believe she's that naive. She can't be. Megyn Kelly is not your friend. She's not neutral. She's screaming at her audience that there's a ton of evidence that she's seen that proves Tyler Robinson is guilty. Okay, well, you guys can look at that at your own time. The comments are wild, but here it is, signed, sealed, and delivered. Now, she said during the stream she's going to continue looking into this and talking about it, but the tone definitely did change. It does seem like she calmed her tone down a bit, and I think that says something, right? So like I said, we may never know everything that was said during that conversation. I did ask you guys about this via poll. Eric, do we have that poll so we can show? I'm curious. The question that I did ask is who benefited from this conversation? Like, who do you thought benefited? I'll tell you who I thought it was, but I want to see your responses first. Okay, let's see. We have over 4,043 votes. Who benefits from Candace and Erika's talk? 31% said Erika Kirk and TPUSA. 17% said Candace Owens. 32% said both of them. And 20% said no one. So the largest percentage was both of them, followed by Erika and TPUSA. Yeah. I said that I think Erika and TPUSA benefited from it because it seemed like, and I made my decision after I saw, her her stream, but I made my decision then, and I said like it kind of felt like she was proven right, on things. Like she talked about the Egyptian planes and stuff like that too. She was proven right on things, but they weren't I don't know how to say it. It's not like they weren't disproven, but they weren't really exposed. Like I don't know. Like it's the information. It seems like it's not something that's going to cause people to go, "Oh my God, like this organization is corrupt." And that's what I want us to think about: corruption, right? So I didn't come away from it feeling that way. I didn't come away from it feeling that people are going to say, "Oh my God, TPUSA is corrupt," and just abandon all of that. And it almost kind of seemed like, in a way, that walking it back, that statement that Candace said at the beginning, that she came across aggressive, it almost seemed as like it was a coordinated effort to protect the business on both sides. That's my take on it. Let me know what you think. All right. I think Eric's is going to join us, and going to go through the chats. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll do the closeout. Yeah. If I was going to say something, I was going to say like the same thing, that they're just like gotta, they both gotta protect. But what do they say it in the mafia? The family business. They both you gotta protect the business and the money. And maybe Candace isn't sure how to do that, so she's not quite sure what to say now.
Offer you couldn't refuse. We give him off. I can't do it right, but you know what I mean.
Someday I'm going to ask you to do something, and you're going to do it. Maybe it was one of those, but yeah, crazy stuff, man. But
yeah, that's what it seemed like to me. It just seems like at the end of the day, maybe there was a mutual agreement to protect the organization in order to protect the conservative movement or something. I don't know, but it just.
I mean, it's also different. Go ahead.
I didn't walk away from that saying, like, if I knew nothing about this situation, I didn't walk away from it saying, "Oh my God, Turning Point USA is incredibly corrupt." Does that make sense? If I didn't know anything before.
Mm-hmm. Well, because she toned it down. Yeah. I mean, it's different, I guess, when you're face to face with people too, is another thing.
That's a good point, Eric. It is
does
different.
get harder to go at them.
Thanks, New York Varsity.
There's Jason.
Oh,
he knows what to say.
Thank you. That's sweet. I really wasn't feeling it, to be honest. I was about to throw it back up in a ponytail for real. But thank you. All right, that's it for me, guys. Have a good night. Keep up the fight. I'll be back on Thursday night, and when we do the final show of the year, we are going to do the top 10 stories of 2025. I did that last year as well. So I'll be sending you guys a poll to do via my newsletter. So stay tuned for that.
Cool.
All right.
Bye. And we'll let our Sabrina call it a night. And I'll just do a quick show closeout here. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, I thought our first guest, Joe Tashi, was really good, really interesting. He was running for Senate, and I think we're going to be hearing and talking about him some more. And really liked what he was about. We had our story about the big New Year's supposed plot. I mean, one thing too that that I've heard that makes sense to me is that, and you saw this after 9/11 a lot, where the FBI and this Homeland Security, which has now been pumped up to a ridiculous size. It's kind of amazing. I mean, before 9/11, like the term Homeland Security wasn't the thing. And now it's this massive department. So they're desperate to justify their existence, the whole Homeland Security apparatus and the FBI. And what they'll do is they'll put out kind of honeypots and put out infiltrators and paid informants, and they usually tend to come up with they usually tend to latch on these people who aren't too bright, and the plotting and the manufacture of the whole thing is done by the FBI and their informants, their infiltrators, and they'll gin all this stuff up, and they'll get these people to the point where they think they're in on something, and then they'll get them to like put some money in and saying, "Oh, we're buying these guns and put the money in, or we're doing this thing," and yeah, maybe these someone who would do that should be maybe looked at and investigated, but it sure seems like there would be no plot and none of this and no incident if the FBI didn't gin it all up in the first place. And so this, it always seems like it's another one of those is what we see happening with this New Year attack and the whole and that whole bit. Anyways, let's see what we got for some chats before we close out. We got a lot of chats on the Candace Owens story. All just kind of weird, but I don't know. Personally, I just think everybody's trying to protect their grift is the main thing you're seeing on both sides of that. Thanks for this super chat. Adula, who says, did you Google Tom Artemon Alexandrovich, the P that Donald Trump freed? We'll look into that. Thanks for this one, Sparky. Tim Pool has been blowing Netanyahu for so long that he can start a leaf blower. Okay. And thanks for this one, Mountain Star Studio. It says, ranking truth seekers, TPA don't make the list. And thanks for this one. Please identify, rank, and support the truth seekers. Excuse me. And thanks for this one, Sparky, who says to Sabby, damn, you look extra good, so good. I couldn't stop myself from commenting. Beautiful outfit, excellent work as always, by the way. And I'm sure Sabby thanks you for that one. And thanks for this one, Mrs. Richie Blackmore. Says TPUSA equals an unofficial arm of the Trump administration. They have all the power. Accusing them of being part of the CK assassination equals accusing the Trump administration. Candace can't stand up to that level of power, so she folded. What else we got here in the queue? Thanks for this one from the Scoosy Assassin, I think that is. Imagine Candace's face when she walked into the room and Satan Yahoo was sitting there with an Uzi. And thanks, Sparky, who says, hope Candace didn't sell out. We'll see. Meetings like that usually go, okay, how much is it going to cost? Name your price, while implying if you don't, accidents can happen to you or yours. Interesting. Who knows? And thanks for this one. Over the Top 242. It says, done with Candace Owens. She's making excuses, picking irrelevant issues, not addressing the important issues. She sounds full of shit. Dismissing Harpo because he isn't working there doesn't change what he said. And thanks, Gamble510, who says, I smell the scent of masked capitulation. And thanks, Leroy Beresford. He's been a member for 91 months. Yes, Leroy has been here a while. Appreciate you. And he used his special chat to say, Candace is married to her AIPAC handler. Her father is Lord Michael Farmer of the Tory party in the UK, a staunch Israel supporter. Everyone has one. Okay. And thanks for this super sticker, Florida one-on-one. Appreciate that. And thanks for this one, Focus 6016. If Candace tricks me one more time, I might seriously consider unsubscribing from her channel. Yeah, I tell you, that Candace, she gets some mad numbers. Wish we had half those numbers. Thanks for this one, Measured Man. Watch the Macron lawsuit go away. Interesting. And thanks. With our eyes arise. Some of these names are a little hard. You're not giving like the capitalization between the words. Anyways, they say Mount Kenya, which is Mount Zion, is home of the Ark of the Covenant. Take a look at Green Lover's Dream to see the message to the diaspora from the elders. Thank you for that. And thanks for this one, Over the Top. She says TPUSA betrayed Charlie, and now she backpedals from donating. This is such a transparent stand down. And thanks for this one, Mountain Star Studio. Boost worthy. Nat the Cat Williams, new member She either sold out or she was threatened. Either way, the mob wins as usual. Snake Eyes, House wins. And thanks for the super chat, Nicole Archie, who says that Candace got put in her place. All right. And then we got a little bit out here on the Rockfins from good old Rockfin Roger. Let's see what he's got to say, shall we? All right. Thanks for this tipped comment on Rockfin Roger. Roger Meadows, who says, strong support. Now here he was talking about Kamala, who claimed to have strong support among Black people. I think so. Roger's saying strong support among Black people, Boomers, half of Gen X, and the Divine Nine. 2, politicians will often speak about understanding your pain, then talk about goals like healthcare and affordability, yet leave out what's in between, the specific policies you will push to meet those goals. Kamala is blaming inflation on Trump when it started under her. People in the DNC superdelegates will never choose her. Yeah, I really don't think it's very likely we'll be seeing another Kamala run, but who knows? Stranger things have happened. And Roger says it is better we focus on putting third-party and independent members into Congress and the U.S. Senate who don't have term limits than to be focusing on the president. All right. Thanks for those, Mr. Roger. All right. That's going to do us for here tonight. As always, thanks for watching. We'll be live again on Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. We'll see what we got for you then live. In the meantime, do check out the old 11demands.org if you want to find out, if you want some potential answers to that question of, what do we do about this mess? Check out 11 Demands and that'll do us. So in the meantime, I'll repeat what Sabby said. Have a good night. Keep up the fight. Thanks all. We'll see you next time.